Welcome to the house that Bud built. Where Barry made his mark. Where Bob continues to roll.
Welcome to the home where Superman lives. $142 All-Americans.
'47-game winning streak.
40 conference titles.
Count them. 7 national championships.
There's only one.
Only one.
One Oklahoma.
This is Oklahoma football.
The first quarterback from the Oklahoma City area in 3 decades, Sam Bradford, off the buses today, and the faithful from the Sooner Nation out in numbers today. Gorgeous weather. They've been waiting for this kickoff since early this morning. And up from
Monday, watch Eyewitness News 5 at 6.
The following is a special presentation of ESPN on ABC.
the first quarterback from the Oklahoma City area in 3 decades, Sam Bradford, off the buses today, and the faithful from the Sooner Nation out in numbers today. Gorgeous weather. They've been waiting for this kickoff since early this morning. And up from College Station, the 12th man and the Aggie faithful. Also the fighting Aggie marching band on hand tonight. A big one in the Big 12 South between A&M and Oklahoma. Now let's join John Saunders and Craig James in New York.
State. Kansas did score 76 against Nebraska.
In a football game. It wasn't a basketball game.
Exactly. Oklahoma's chances resting on the young quarterback.
Well, I really believe that the Aggies have to throw the football. They must throw the ball down the field, but they have to be very aware of Sam Bradford when they go to play action, because Oklahoma's going to run the football, and the Aggies are going to come up and try to stop it. When they do that, Kelly and company are excellent wide receiver, and Bradford finds them down the field. But the Aggies have got to throw the football. They have got to come out, whether it's smoke and mirrors, whatever they got to do, they have to stretch the field. Franchione has to take some chances in order to have a chance to win this game.
A lot of people still think Oklahoma will have a chance to climb the ladder and get a chance to play in that national championship game. It's going to be a difficult one, but they got to get past tonight. First of all, Saturday Night Football, Oklahoma and Texas A&M when we come back. We'll be on our way to finding out who's going to be celebrating.
Against the best. Now you're being put to the test. Welcome to the Terror Dome. Now you're on your own. We gon' see who regulates and who gets to celebrate.
We're getting down to the home stretch. The final month of the college football season is upon us. Time to make your mark. For the Oklahoma Sooners, there's much yet to be settled. They are atop the Big 12 South standings, and if they can make it through the rest of the season unscathed, their dreams of a national title can be realized. It's been a season of turmoil for Texas A&M, but a victory tonight in Norman could spur the Aggies to a finish worth remembering. The Big 12 battles in prime time. Next. Welcome to Saturday Night College Football, presented by Southwest Airlines. Tonight from Memorial Stadium in Norman, Oklahoma, it's the Texas Aggies against the Oklahoma Sooners. And let's take a quick look at today in the Big 12. Here are the final scores that we have. The number is right, as John Saunders said a minute ago. 76 points scored by KU. Kansas State falls to Iowa State. Texas, with 2 seconds left on the clock, gets a game-winning field goal against Oklahoma State. Texas Tech wins big over Baylor. And now in the second quarter, Missouri leading by 7 points over Colorado. Here are the standings in the Big 12 South. It is Oklahoma sitting on top with a number of 3-1, then followed by Texas at 4-2, and the Aggies along with Oklahoma State at 3-2. Hi, everybody. Ron Franklin along with Ed Cunningham. Jack Arute will be coming around shortly. For the Sooners, yes, they have one defeat this season, and a shocker up in Boulder, Colorado. However, if they take care of business, a BCS bowl game is still very, very much in their grasp. Lostman, along with a young man with the name of English, we're going to start off talking about tonight. They're not on the offensive side of the ball. They're on the defensive side of the ball, and they have set the bar very high.
Well, one of the problems coming into the season, everyone outside of the program thought, well, who's going to make tackles? Who's going to pressure the quarterback? Well, the people inside the program knew about Austin English. He played mostly running back in high school. He's just a sophomore, leads the Big 12 in tackles for loss and sacks. He's very rare as a defensive lineman, never has to come off the field. Very conditioned athlete. Another guy that nobody really knew about coming into the season except the coaches was Curtis Lofton. He's made huge play after huge play, 2 touchdowns on the season already, had a huge forced fumble against Texas in that ball game. And Bob Stoops, all of the great players have had at linebacker and defensive end. Bob Stoops starts saying these 2 guys may end up being better than all of them.
And as far as Texas A&M is concerned, all week long, Oklahoma has said the newspapers have been full of, hey, regardless of what they call it, this is the old-fashioned wishbone they're running.
Exactly. Texas A&M now running basically a 3-dive option where they look at the fullback, then they look at the pitch, and it's all coming out of the hands of Stephen McGee. Now, McGee is starting to take some pounding. 35 carries against Nebraska. He will carry the ball. He'll take on some linebackers. Luckily for McGee, because we've seen the guys are going to chase him around all night. He has 2 very good running backs, but very different running backs. Javorsky Lane at 275 pounds. When he's in the game, expect him to run between the tackles. I expect to see Goodson, the speedster, a little more early on because he can do everything, inside, outside, and catch the ball.
And both teams are out on the field now. Obviously a capacity house and an absolutely gorgeous evening in Norman, Oklahoma. They're here in numbers from College Station, and they're here in mass from the state of Oklahoma as we take a ride on the Sooner Schooner. When we return, we'll hear from the third man on our team, Jack Arute. You're watching ESPN Saturday Night Football on ABC. Well, I talked about the gorgeous conditions here in Norman, Oklahoma. You could see a few people with sweatshirts on and their arms folded. 59 degrees, supposed to drop into the 40s tonight. The wind, negligible. Forecast is for clear skies, which is different from what we had the last time we were here against the University of Miami. Coach Francione on the far sideline as he watched Oklahoma win the toss, and surprisingly, Oklahoma has said they will receive. So Szymanski prepares to kick it off for the Aggies. You see the numbers on Fran. And Bob Stoops on the near sideline. Club with an incredible record, only 2 losses here in this stadium since he has been the head coach. Kick comes down at the goal line, and this is Iglesias. And Iglesias will take it when he breaks out of a tackle and is open on the far sideline, and now being stopped at the 27-yard line. And Szymanski, the kicker, is the man who made the tackle. We were taking a look just a moment ago at Coach Francione. During the offseason, I'm sure that all of you read or heard about a war of words between these 2 schools. And what happened is Coach Francione made a comment at an all-Aggie gathering down in Houston. And he did not realize, nor did he think, that there was anybody, a reporter particularly, in attendance. Well, it turned into a little bit of a war of words, and Jack Arute will be along after this play and will explain a little bit more about what happened. Patrick gets the handoff, and he'll go for a couple of yards. Let's go down to Jack.
Well, Ron, what you're talking about is a reference that Coach Francione made about the problem with Rhett Bomar last year regarding, well, I don't know what they're going to do with the season, but I don't also know what they're going to do for employment. I had a chance to talk to Coach Fran just before the start of this game. He's been extremely distraught about the fact that those comments were reported to the Oklahoma Nation and specifically to the players and the Sooners coaches. He said, Jack, that is not my style. It was meant solely as humor, and private humor at that.
Okay, Jack. Pass complete to the 42. That's Brody Eldridge, the tight end. And now let's take a look at the Oklahoma starting offense presented by Dell. Here's WWE Hall of Fame announcer Jim Ross. Jim.
Ron, the Sooners are in Survivor Series mode tonight and will be led by redshirt freshman quarterback, slinging Sammy Bradford, the Big Easy, who's cooler than the other side of the pillow. Wide receiver Malcolm Kelly has got the biggest and best hands of the receivers and can beat any DB like a government mule. And the big boys up front average 322 pounds of barbecued beef, led by the Andre the Giant clone, Big Phil Lodeholt.
All right, JR with the starting lineups for the Oklahoma Sooners. Being tackled, and the pass has gotten away as Red Bryant was all over quarterback Sam Bradford. And now let's take a look at the starting lineup for Texas A&M on defense. Here's linebacker Mark Dodge. Mark.
Starting for the Wrecking Crew defense tonight, up front we got the Brutes, Chris Harrington and Red Bryant. Keeping the blockers off the old guys, myself and Macy Toupee. We got the heavy hitter in the backfield, Alton Dixon, and the interception machine, Kay Carpenter.
Mr. Dodge, quite an exemplary young man, which we'll talk about more as the game goes on. And that pass thrown for a very, very short gain. Alan Patrick on the receiving end, and that's Michael Bennett, number 11, a junior out of A-Leaf Taylor down in the Houston area with an outstanding defensive play. It's going to be third down.
Going back a bit to the war of words that happened, Bob Stoops was very upset when he heard the comments referencing the job situation with Rhett Bomar and J.D. Quinn, but Coach Francione did call Bob Stoops and apologize to him personally. They put that aside, and both coaches have said it's not an issue with us, it's an issue with our fans. We've moved forward from it.
Best way to settle it, but also to talk with each other personally. Bradford throws this one away, and he didn't get it back to the line of scrimmage. Now, he may have had a receiver in the vicinity, but this time heavy pressure from Chris Harrington.
Well, that was Joe John Finley in the vicinity, but I'm with you, Ron. I think this may have been grounding.
Well, it's one of those situations where
it's close.
Joe John was close. He was in the vicinity.
I guess
Bradford, but that's two times that heavy pressure on him. And that's the one thing against Colorado which really upset him and got him out of rhythm.
And not from blitzes. That was with a four-down rush both of those times. So A&M getting pressure without having to bring their linebackers.
Here's Cohen with the kick. This is a good coverage kick. Very high. No fair catch. And a tackle immediately at the 17-yard line. That's Roger Holland. Now let's take a look at the Texas A&M starting offense presented by Dell. Here's running back Jaworski Lane. Jaworski.
Tonight we're going to start out with Stephen McGee. Stephen McGee is the leader of our offense. He throws the ball to 6'7", 240-pound Martellus Bennett. Look at him, he's a man. Up front, we have Kurt Elder. So far, he's led me with 16 touchdowns, and tonight we look for 17, 18, and 19.
Thanks, Jaworski. We also look forward to seeing you carrying the football tonight. In fact, he's in the backfield right now. McGee will keep it. And it's going to be stopped after a short gain. Now let's take a quick look at the Oklahoma defensive starters. Once again, here is JR.
Business is about to pick up on the Sooner defense led by Stone Cold Austin English, a former running back turned sack master. The middle linebacker Curtis Lofton, an honor student, is a cerebral assassin and a true slobber knocker. And cornerback Reggie Smith, he's quicker than a hiccup and can run like a scalded dog and is due to take a punt to the house tonight, Ron.
All right, JR, great job. Two setbacks, and this is Smith, youngster who was a sophomore out of Tyler Lee. And we were told that We're going to see a lot more of him this evening. Talk about that lineup that they're in right there. That's what the Sooners are referring to. That is the wishbone, the two setbacks.
You know, and a lot of teams, when they run that type of read option, a lot of times the quarterback has either been given the signal to keep the ball or hand it off. He's not truly reading it. A&M does read it, and they give McGee the opportunity to read that backside in. Am I going to keep it or am I going to hand it off? And that's what makes it so difficult, because McGee is very good at reading it. You don't see that with a lot of quarterbacks.
Well, that sequence is fullback, quarterback, pitch, and that's the responsibility of the defense. This time reverses out on the play action and throws the ball incomplete. That's Pierre Brown that he wanted. Let's take a look at the X factor, Ed.
Well, as Texas A&M throws the ball on that down, we'll talk about the running game, because Texas A&M, one of the best in the country, 9th in the NCAA. They have struggled, of course, in their losses. Only had 75 yards rushing last week against Kansas. The bad news for them is they're going up against one of the best defenses in the country overall, not just against the run. So we'll mark that tonight and see. A&M, especially in that Miami loss on the road, couldn't establish the run at all.
Second down and 10. McGee again will keep the football and take it out across the 30 to around the 33. Lewis Baker making the tackle.
Now you look at this statistic of the rushing yards in wins versus losses, and you say, well, they got behind and so they had to throw it, and that's a little bit true. But if you watch the game last week against Kansas, that game never got out of hand. The biggest lead that Kansas had was only 11 points. So they just haven't been able to do it. And you look at the game at Miami, the games that they've lost, they haven't dedicated themselves to the run. They've gotten out of their game plan. They've got to stick to it and keep Jaworski Lane, Goodson, and now we see Calendar Smith keep pounding those guys.
Wants to throw, middle screen. That ball is very high, being tipped around, and it's incomplete. And boy, a dangerous situation on a ball that sometimes is picked off. Give credit to Gerald McCoy, a redshirt freshman out of right here in Oklahoma City, number 93.
Well, and he gets, they did a great job of reading the screen and went up and jumped it for it. And Curtis Lofton was trying to go for the pick, but DeMarcus Granger was over there tackling Jaworski Lane, and Lofton couldn't get both hands up to catch it. A&M very lucky that Lofton couldn't get through about 600 pounds of humanity to catch that ball.
Reggie Smith, the deep man. Justin Brantley prepares to kick it away. Back to the 17-yard line. Really good coverage with the Aggies, and they're going to drop him back inside the 10-yard line. That's 49 yards in a kick and a -10 on the return, and it was Mark Dodge on the tackle. And we are back in Norman, Oklahoma. No score after a possession each for Oklahoma and also for Texas A&M. They've spotted the ball at the 10.5-yard line. Each team gained 16 yards in their opening possession as a ball thrown behind the intended receiver Kelly, and that thing was very nearly picked off. Jordan Pugh.
Take a look at Oklahoma offensively. They have been so efficient with Sam Bradford at quarterback. He struggled 2 weeks ago against Iowa State. The scoring offense at 44.5. If you remember back at the beginning of the season, Oklahoma was on a tear. They put 79 on North Texas, 51 on Miami, and then they put 62 against Tulsa. And things have slowed down a little bit, though, in conference, and a lot of that is because teams are no longer blitzing them.
Alan Patrick slips down, and let's check back to New York, and here's Matt Weiner. Matt.
Hey, Ron, here's our nominee for the Pontiac game-changing performance. Texas got its 10th straight win over Oklahoma State, but they needed this Ryan Bailey field goal at the gun to do it after trailing by 21 in the third quarter. Check out this season's best Pontiac game-changing performances at ESPN.com. Search Pontiac.
Matt, thanks very much. You know, consider this. It's been 1 year and 1 week since he did the same thing on his first collegiate field goal to win up at Nebraska. Pass from his own end zone line is thrown complete to the 21-yard line. That's Iglesias on the reception and good for 14 yards. and that will move the sticks. Let's go down to the sideline, check it again with Jackaroo. Jack?
Well, Ron, you know Oklahoma, the Sooners are coming off a bye week. You also mentioned the fact that Sam Bradford did not have the best of outings against Iowa State. I talked to Kevin Wilson, and he said he talked to his entire offensive squad and felt that they were trying to be too perfect. He told them, relax, be aggressive, have fun, cut it loose. Then he reminded him, make sure you take care of the ball, guys.
Yeah, that's key. Yeah. Offensive coordinators have a way of reminding him of that, don't they? Far sideline. And double coverage, that's going to be overthrown for Iglesias. I would say to the Aggie faithful who look at the score of that Iowa State game and gain some solace from it, we always watch video on Friday mornings, and it didn't take us very long to realize 3 times in the first quarter the wind was galing, and Sam Bradford had men wide open for touchdowns, and he missed connections.
Yeah, and it's not just when the wind's in your face. You know, he had the one underthrow to Malcolm Kelly because it's in the face, but then you turn around and go the other way, you throw the long ball, it's going to make it hang up. So he really struggled and felt like maybe he got a little greedy in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, that's exactly what he told Coach Wilson. He said, I tried to go for too much too many times, as this running play is just stoned. Murray hit by Obazar.
And Oklahoma, they've had a couple of slow starts here of late. Against Iowa State, of course, they were down 7-0 at halftime. And trying to find that rhythm. Again, you go back to the Miami game, which we were here for. Miami played almost all-man coverage and blitz, and they just picked them apart. Oklahoma just, and Malcolm Kelly just went right by them. And teams now starting to back off. Watch how far A&M safeties are back. They're making these explosive guys earn everything they get. It takes a little adjustment.
Well, I'll tell you what, they are. They're about 12, 13 yards off the line of scrimmage. Pass near sideline, caught by Kelly on a high leaping grab. And that, from where they have marked it, is going to be well short of the first down.
Well, that's
you hear the boos from the faithful here.
It looked to me like Malcolm Kelly made that catch beyond the sticks, and it was the defender that pushed him back.
Well, the defender was a Carpenter, who has been so outstanding for Texas A&M, number 13.
Now the line gets the 33. Yep, it sure looks like it because the defender's pushing him. It felt to me like that mark should have been beyond the sticks, and this should be a first down.
And a quick snap by Oklahoma, and a low short kick, and on the run. The ball is muffed, and Oklahoma is on the football at the 32-yard line.
And that's a true freshman, Roger Holland, who they just started letting return kicks. He had battled a concussion, had a touchdown catch last week. He should have not tried to play this ball. It was a weird kick.
Guess who made the recovery on special teams? Running back DeMarco Murray.
Well, he's out there as a bullet because of his speed. He's one of the fastest guys on the team.
Good point.
And Holland, a guy that they have a lot of trust in, but he should have backed away from this ball. When that ball came off of the punter's foot, it was funny. It was not hanging. It was not spinning. Yeah. Holland should have just run away. Whatever call they used to make people run, that was a freshman mistake.
Well, the kicking coach for Oklahoma was saying that's a lousy kick, and then, oh, yeah, that knuckleball worked well. Speaking of Murray, he gets nothing on this carry right here, as the Aggies are really swarming defensively. BC Toupee defensively for Texas A&M.
And a lot of people around here wondering, Alan Patrick, who we saw on the first drive, not playing as much as he did last year. Of course, Patrick had such a great season taking over for Adrian Peterson when he was hurt. But a lot of that has to do with the emergence of not just DeMarco Murray, but also Chris Brown. And Brown, not the flashy one, but boy, he's playing really well.
I'll tell you, Brown, a two-time All-State player in the state of Louisiana out of Alexandria. This is a keeper by Murray, and he gets nothing. So it's going to be third down. And I'll tell you, Oklahoma right now, even with the turnover here, regardless of where they've been, playing behind the sticks rather than in front.
And it looks to me like the team that had the bye was Texas A&M, not Oklahoma. They look awfully fresh in their front seven. They've been getting pressure on Bradford early, and every time they go to run it, there's white shirts penetration, the offensive line. A strength for Oklahoma. Normally, they are not getting their gap secured, and the white shirts are able to get a lot of penetration.
That's Johnson in motion. Blitz comes off the corner, picked up nicely, wide open over the middle, first and goal inside the 10-yard, and it's the man that was in motion, Johnson, I just talked about, who makes a 26-yard reception.
Excellent read and excellent throw. by Sam Bradford. The one thing that the coaches and all of the receivers talked about with Sam Bradford is the touch. He's just going to run right and sit between the linebackers and the safeties. Again, we talked about how deep those safeties are. Johnson just, and the ball was thrown right on time. It had to be thrown high because of Dodge, the linebacker, backing out, and Bradford threw it perfectly.
Direct snap to Murray, and Murray will take it inside the 5. He's still fighting, and they just now got him down. And let's see if they're going to say forward progress. I believe they'll bring it back to around what? The 3.5-yard line.
A little bit of wrinkle here with the bye week. You've got a dynamic player like DeMarco Murray and Kevin Wilson, the offensive coordinator for Bob Stoops, an incredibly inventive coach. They will, of course, came from Northwestern, where they had to invent a lot of offense to compete in the Big Ten, but they will throw a lot at you.
He was up there with Randy Walker, of course, who shocked the football world with his death just a year ago. Pass right over the middle. Touchdown. Wide open is Jermaine Gresham, the tight end. So with a night game here, the athletic director, Joe, going all out here. We had fireworks going off in both end zones.
Did you notice Gresham caught that ball with his hands? You know, watching film, he's been struggling with that, and I wonder if the bye week they went to work with him to work on getting the ball away from his pads.
Extra point attempt is up, and it is good by Hartley. And as we go to break, let's take one more look at the muff of the punt. Holland, a true freshman. This time last year he was playing in the high schools. Right now, it's Oklahoma 7, A&M nothing. It's the Sooners who get on the scoreboard first. And as we mentioned to you, a tough situation. A kid who was just playing high school football this time last year at Cy Falls High School outside of Houston. Roger Holland, but he muffed the punt. And it led to a recovery by Oklahoma. And it also led to a touchdown. Franks and Brown, the two deep men for Texas A&M. Hartley prepares to kick it off. And this is a spinner, very short. Going to hit at the 14-yard line. And back out to the 28 on the return is Pierre Brown. Let's take another look at the touchdown and tell us what happened there, Ed.
Well, Matt Featherston, who's the linebacker right here, notice there's no safety, so you're in straight man. Watch his eyes go to the running back Murray, and he gets heavy, leaning forward right as he goes to Chuck Gresham and totally misses him. He's got man coverage over there. He's peeking into the running back. Into the backfield. If you're in man, you've got to just lock on your man. And the young linebacker, just a sophomore, you can see him get that body lean. Gresham used a nice move to go right by him.
McGee faked it to Lane. Now he's going to run it. Pumped it one time and will be stopped just short of the 35-yard line. Monday Night Football on ESPN continues next week as Ray Lewis and the Baltimore Ravens take on Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Monday Night Football on ESPN at 8:30 Eastern Time.
Well, you mentioned the passing of Randy Walker, and of course, college football lost a great one in Terry Hepner this past summer, the coach at Indiana who coached Ben Roethlisberger at Miami of Ohio. And Ben is having a great season and attributes that a lot to, he's dedicated it to his old coach, Terry Hepner.
McGee keeps it, pitches it back. Ball is fumbled out of bounds. And that's going to be at the 26-yard line is Cornell Tarrant. There's the man who could not hold on.
A&M just not getting any rhythm whatsoever. There's the dive. Didn't hand it off to Lane. And this is the triple option. It just did not lock that ball away. A difficult guy, and we're starting to see a lot of guys, quite frankly. You wonder where Mike Goodson is.
Well, Lane has not rushed the ball yet either.
And neither has Goodson. You know, I don't know why these young guys are in there. That you've got productive guys above them and have more experience.
Third down. Blitz coming from up the middle. And the sack is made by Austin English. First time that they've gotten to McGee tonight, but English adds to his league-leading sack total.
This young man is such a special talent, very lightly recruited. He did play defensive end in high school, but it was because he was such a good running back.
I started to say, along with running back,
yeah,
and along with linebacker.
Yeah, unbelievable.
He played a little bit of everything. He's out of Canadian Texas, which is just south of the panhandle of Oklahoma. Brandley waits for the pass for the Aggies to punt it away. Well, this one's not going to turn over. And on the bounce is taken, and the hit made immediately at the 39-yard line on Reggie Smith. A little bit of a chance taken there. 44 yards on the boot. And we'll take a timeout. And as we go to break, one more look at Austin English working his magic defensively. Here comes number 33, and he's got the quarterback. So we're back in Norman. A look at Goodson on the sideline. And in fact, after the play, we'll go down and visit with Jack Arute and try to find out if he knows a little bit more as to why he has not been in the ball game or carrying the football so far. This running play is just going to go for nothing. Jack, let's check with you and tell us what you got.
Well,
there.
Ron, sometimes you have to just read the tea leaves. I queried the situation and asked if there was a problem with Goodson, and the representatives told me that, well, he wasn't feeling well at the beginning of the week. And I said, well, is it a disciplinary? Is it a health issue? They shrugged their shoulders and said, just don't know. But he didn't feel well in the beginning of the week, but he looks okay to me down here on the sidelines.
Yeah, he's had some smiles on the sideline. Yeah. Anyway, he's such a good player, and it's just a little bit surprising to see the youngsters playing in front of him. Second down and 10, and this handoff goes right inside. And A&M just simply from tackle to tackle has not allowed anything running so far.
And go back to Mike Goodson. When you see a player on the sideline who's not holding his helmet, he's not going to play. At least not now. I mean, you go over there and you hold your helmet because you never know if there's going to be a turnover. You may have to run out for a quick change. And Mike Goodson without a helmet makes me feel like now Dennis Franchione always tight-lipped about both injuries and suspensions. So maybe he is ill. Maybe he got in some trouble. But we just don't know. But without seeing him with his helmet in hand, I doubt Mike Goodson's going to play for a little while.
Third down. Oklahoma needs to take it out to their own 49-yard line. Sooners lead it 7-0. They set a screen back into the short side of the field, and a missed tackle in the open field, and that'll be a first down OU. And it was Pugh trying to put a stop on Chris Brown, but it's a gain of 10 yards.
Excellent work downfield by Malcolm Kelly. And you start to see why Chris Brown, watch Kelly up top. He gets inside on the safety who had walked up, and watch him finish this block. Excellent job, not a holding. Really nice work, but you start to see why Chris Brown has started to get more and more plays his way. He continually moving forward.
Bradford has connected on his last 4 passes. This is DeMarco Murray. And he is hit from behind as he goes forward, and he'll have 4 yards. Let's go down and check in with Jack again.
Well, I discovered a new nickname for Sam Bradford, and it was given by his head coach, Bob Stoops. He calls him the Big Easy. Now, it's not because Sam is a scratch golfer, which he is, but because of the similarity in the personality of Ernie Els. But when the media heard about it and they missed what the reference was by calling him the Big Easy, well, then Bob had to backtrack a little bit and say, because nothing seems to faze him. I'm not quite sure. I think it's probably they played golf in the offseason. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I think so.
That's Gresham, the tight end, in motion. But they got single coverage at the top of your screen, and the ball is overthrown, and here comes a flag. Carpenter was the man with the cover on Malcolm Kelly.
And good coverage at that. He was stride for stride. Carpenter's really matured.
Well, the Aggie coaches are very upset, though, and it looks as though
Pass interference.
number 13 of the defense. 15-yard penalty, first down.
Well, both guys had their arms up. That's not defensive pass interference. If I were an Aggie coach, I would be upset too. I think Carpenter played that ball very well. If anything, Kelly was using his inside arm to keep him off. Well, that's a tough penalty to take if you're an Aggie.
And Dennis Franchione tried to look at the big board to see if there would be a replay to see one way or the other. They never showed it, guys.
Yep.
3 tight ends, the formation for Oklahoma. And Gary Darnell admitted that this gives them a lot of trouble because of all the varieties that Oklahoma can run off of it, because 2 of the guys, particularly Finley, catches the ball well along with Gresham, but also using them in blocking.
Yeah, but Brody Eldridge, who is the best blocker, can actually line up as a fullback. So Gary Darnell said it's a guessing game when you're playing Oklahoma. Usually if you see 3 tight ends trot out, you think they're going to have a power formation. Let's get our big folks in there, all our linebackers. But with Gresham being able to walk away and Finley being able to run down the field, it's almost like they're a spread offense with those guys in.
Alan Patrick is the man at the eye, but they're going to throw it, and out in the flat there is Eldridge, the tight end, and that is exactly what we were talking about that Darnell said gives them so many problems.
Well, and they ran Finley down the field vertical, which cleared out that side for Eldridge. So very difficult to defend when you have guys that are that big and can run. There was Finley flashing by, clearing it out. Nice catch by Eldridge.
Yeah, it was.
Almost dropped it.
Mark Dodge on the tackle. He has a special teams tackle and at least a couple on defense. He's got a good defensive game going tonight. As a short running play, maybe for a couple. That's Alan Patrick again, and again it's Dodge who's there to make the stop. And that is the end of the opening quarter. Our presentation of Saturday Night Football presented by Southwest Airlines will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations. You're watching ESPN on ABC.
The Sports Center Minute is powered by Vizio. A pair of top 5 teams added in Eugene tonight. Ducks and Devils dueling. Dennis Dixon has thrown 3 touchdown passes. Arizona State on the comeback. They've now cut it to 5, 21-16. In Tuscaloosa, Javier Arenas' 61-yard punt return is the difference right now between LSU and Alabama. Bama leads the Saban Bowl in the 4th.
So as we come back to play, 3 tight ends in the ball game again for Oklahoma. Time of possession, A&M 404, OU 10:56 in that opening quarter. And play action by Bradford, looks right over the middle, and there is Jermaine Gresham again. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Well, after a little bit of a sluggish start, Oklahoma is kind of like a surgeon right now on this Texas A&M defense. And Bradford has, all of a sudden, he's got a string of complete passes rather than being off the mark. Hartley with the extra point attempt. He's got it. And with 14:55 showing on the clock until halftime, our new score is the Oklahoma Sooners 14 and Texas A&M nothing.
Well, this is Kevin Wilson's new toy. Is these 3 tight ends. You got Brody Eldridge, you've got Joe John Finley, and you have Gresham. Watch Finley run off, and Gresham's going to come right behind him. This is easy. Again, you don't know. That's a power formation. You may expect a run to that side. You may expect something else, but just sits up right behind it. And Joe John Finley is just kind of a decoy. This is a great read by the quarterback, but again, if you're the defense, you see those big bodies out there, and you just don't know what to expect, and that's Mark Dodge coming over, trying to get coverage, and against a guy like Gresham, who's a 4'5", 540, bit of a mismatch.
You know, Ed, I think we also should mention, and a credit to Gresham, we were watching video of his Iowa State game, and he was catching the ball into his body when he caught it, and we saw him get intercepted because one bounced off his chest rather than catch it with his hands. Tonight, both of the touchdowns that he has gathered in have been out front with his hands.
Well, and the tight ends are coached by Kevin Wilson, the offensive coordinator. And I promise you, during the bye week, they spend the time, you know, the jugs machine, the wheels spin, they fire it at you about 70 miles an hour. I promise you that Mr. Gresham was doing some work with the jugs, having some fastballs thrown at his chest, and Kevin Wilson saying you need to catch the ball away from your body, and that came directly from that interception that hit him in the chest.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. Here comes the kickoff by Hartley. Franks and Brown, the two deep men, and it's returnable from the 2. This is Pierre Brown. Pierre, big opening, and finally going to be stopped out across the 40-yard line. That is 40 yards on the return. The Aggies with good field position. Jack, let's check with you again.
Well, you might think that if you're on the defense for the Aggies, you might see the adversity that you're facing and wonder what has just hit us. But when you're led by 26-year-old Mark Dodge, well, he's seen adversity before. He served in the 3rd United States Infantry and was part of the Presidential Honor Guard. But he also was in the Pentagon back in 9/11, and he spent the next 3 weeks helping in the recovery in the 9/11 situation at the Pentagon. And last week, well, Ron, you've got the rest of that story.
Well, last week, about as nice an honor as you could receive. He received the Pat Tillman Award. And McGee under pressure here. I'll complete the story as he's going to be tackled at the 45. And just talking with the people from Texas A&M, I see Dodge is about as exemplary as any young man that have ever been around. And I do know for a fact that an extremely large and influential company has already come for his services, and he knows exactly what's going to happen as far as his future when football is done this year.
And I loved it. It came out, you know, they were talking about this season, and of course you're a senior. Everyone expects, you know, you have NFL aspirations. And Mark Dodge said very early, he said, you know, I came back to college to play football as my dream. I'm ready to move on with my life, and he's got that job lined up. Couldn't be a better guy.
Jaworski Lane puts a head down, and that is his first carry, and we're at the 14:02 mark of the 2nd quarter. But the big fella is letting him know on the sideline, hey, I want it more, because that's going to move the sticks.
Well, and the offensive staff for Texas A&M, Les Caney, the offensive coordinator, of course, Dennis Franchione, calls a lot of the plays.
Most of them.
Yeah, and they caught a lot of heat when they went down to Miami, and big Jaworski Lane had 2 carries. Now that game got out of hand, and they had to go to a more spread throwing, but you've got to start establishing something. With Mike Goodson, it looks like not going to play, at least here in the first half. Lane might be the guy you have to lean on.
Keeper by McGee, 2 yards, maybe 3. Austin English with another tackle for the Oklahoma Sooners. And English gets up limping a little bit. You know what? In fact, now he's going to sit down on the field. Wow. Holding that right ankle. And the defensive coaches, boy, can be anything but excited about that.
Well, and remember that John Williams, the senior defensive end that they were relying on so heavily early in the year, out with an Achilles for the season. And English had stepped up his game so much, they really didn't miss John Williams. Of course, Alonzo Dotson has stepped up his game. They've had to bring Jeremy Beal, a former linebacker, along to give some depth. But this guy never leaves the field.
Oh, and what an engine. We'll talk more about Austin when we return after this message. 14-0 Sooners.
I think that's a better angle.
So as we return, Austin English still being administered aid on the sideline. Scott Anderson, the trainer for Oklahoma.
I think this is going to be a bruise rather than a sprain. Watch his right leg swing around and catch the knee right on the left side of your screen there of Irvin Taylor. So hopefully didn't hit it too hard to break that, to get a break in that area, but sure banged it awfully hard. That leg was spinning around awfully fast.
Well, here comes flag in, and the flags are down because somebody moved.
Prior to the snap, false start, 71 offense, 5-yard penalty, 2nd down.
And let's go down to Jack.
Well, I checked it over, and as you said, they're just working over. It's not a sprained ankle, guys, because they haven't even gone to the shoe. But Ed, as you said, it's more up towards the lower calf area. Now they just want to stretch it out. But remember, this is a guy that between his sophomore and junior year in high school fell over 150 feet. He's an avid climber. And his fall was broken by his backpack. And then less than 2 months later, he was back playing football. This guy's one tough customer.
Yeah, he got a lot of attention, and maybe from a small school, as the ball is thrown complete to Alexander, and he steps out of bounds. You know, one more story to close it out on English. The school that he attended, Canadian High School, 5A is the largest classification in the state of Texas. That's a 2A school. Bobby Jack Wright was called by an assistant coach and said, you know, they got a kid out here at this little school you might want to look at. And Bobby Jack said, I looked at 2 plays and said, give them a scholarship and make sure, because nobody else was on him. And they're thinking he is headed for All-American status. 3rd down, they need the 37. And a timeout called by the Sooners. 14-0, Oklahoma on top. We'll be right back. Those were a few of the displays at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum up the road in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma, of course, a proud frontier tradition. The Sooner State celebrating its 100th year of statehood this year, 2007. Smith resets in the backfield. McGee looking, and he throws to Smith, and it's too high. So now Texas A&M is 0 for 3 on 3rd down conversions.
Well, there was nothing there for Stephen McGee. He was looking left the whole way. And it was just great coverage by Lindy Holmes. He was trying to get the slant, which would have gone right at the sticks. And it was perfect coverage by Oklahoma.
Bradley with his 3rd punt of the evening. 12:44 left until halftime. Pressure up the middle, high booming spiral, and this, I think, is going to carry. No, it's not going to carry into the end zone. Takes a big Aggie stop jump, and it's going to be 37 on the kick, and Oklahoma will have very poor field position as Corey Gibbs is the man who was downfield to touch it down. Now it's time for our Aflac trivia question. This week's question: former Oklahoma quarterback Jason White won the Heisman Trophy in 2003. Who finished 2nd and 3rd in the voting that year?
Things that make you say, Let me get my laptop out here and fire it up and get on Google. I'll figure that out in a second.
Patrick gets the handoff. Big opening. Has 5. Has 10. Counted off at about 13 yards. Devin Gregg making the tackle for Texas A&M. And a nice job of blocking up front by that offensive line of the Sooners.
Well, Oklahoma is so good in explosive plays. They've scored offensively and defensively because of returns and kick returns. 40-plus yards 11 times. Absolutely unbelievable. And, of course, we talked about Murray's speed, the 92-yarder against Utah State.
Here's that formation again with the 3 tight ends. But they throw back the other way. Ball is tipped, and it's caught after being touched by one of the offensive linemen, and that's Duke Robinson. Big George Robinson at 6'5", 352. What a thrill. Unless you're the defender trying to tackle him.
Well, the beauty listen, sometimes things fall in your lap. It's what happens after something falls in your lap. It's your reaction. Watch big number 72.
Duke.
What do you do when you get the ball? Positive yardage. Don't make moves. Get straight up the field. Put your head down. Excellent job. And, of course, Kenny Brown, poor Kenny Brown standing over there, strong safety at 205 pounds. But nice job, Duke. Just get up the field. Don't get pretty.
Well, straight ahead with the handoff again, Alan Patrick, and Allen's going to have the Oklahoma first down at the 35 to pay defensively, number 37.
Well, it's nice to see Alan Patrick get into a little bit of a groove. Had a fumble against Iowa State early in the game, and the coaches have been, everybody's been struggling with a little bit of the fumbles. That's a really nice job by Brandon Walker pulling around, but that's what you expect from Alan Patrick, a former defensive back. Made a great transition last year when Adrian Peterson was hurt. He gets downhill in a hurry.
He's a senior out of Conway, South Carolina. This running play is going to go for nothing. It'll be a 2nd down and 10 because Mark Dodge. Mark is having an outstanding game tonight. Still another tackle for him. Jackaroot, what do you got for us?
Well, you guys were talking about Alan Patrick. Another problem that Alan encountered during the early part of the season. Remember when the weather was hot?
Yeah.
He was cramping up an awful lot. Now that they've gone to a little bit cooler weather, he reports also with additional strength and conditioning, the cramps have subsided, so he can play a little bit more as long as he holds on to the ball.
That's the key.
That's the key right there. Yeah, temperature tonight's supposed to go into the 40s. It is a wonderful evening for football here in Oklahoma, and no wind whatsoever.
Well, and that's the fastest way to get put on the bench as a specialist.
Prior to the snap, false start, number 4 of the offense, 5-yard penalty, 2nd down.
And we saw that with, as Malcolm Kelly was called for the penalty, we saw that last week with Jamal Charles. And, of course, Charles had that huge 4th quarter to help win the game against Nebraska. Had another huge game today over in Stillwater. But when you start putting the ball on the turf, it's the fastest way to the bench. It just doesn't matter how good you are, most of the time you start fumbling and coaches start wondering, hey, we should get someone else in there.
Good look at English right there. He's moving around. You know, the interesting thing, though, what we all forget, the coaches are just absolutely up in arms over it. But the kids, hey, they're a nervous wreck until they get away from that label of being a fumbler.
Yeah.
So there's a timeout. We'll be back. 10-14 until halftime. Sooners continue to lead 14-0.
Decision by Mr. Knaus.
Well, Bradford's going to retreat to throw on this one. Got a man over the middle, and the ball he fumbled. Came out of his hands of Michael Kelly. It's not going to be a fumble because they're ruling he did not have possession. One other note about the NASCAR race, where we are, southern portions of Oklahoma City. That track is just outside of Fort Worth, and I would imagine there are quite a few people from this area who will be headed down there tomorrow.
They're going to NASCAR it right down there.
Yes. You can't NASCAR it too much on 35.
No, you can't.
At least don't tell the DPS.
That's yeah.
Oh,
that's
hey.
The stop action. That's how they grade film around here at Oklahoma. They look at every frame to make sure their players are getting it right.
Obviously, a photographer on the sideline. One of those pictures will be in the Oklahoman tomorrow. Scrambled by Bradford, finally going to get out of bounds, and he'll have plus yardage of about 3 or 4s. Arkeith Brown will force him out, and it was Vaughn Miller, a freshman who was in high school last year out of DeSoto, who was applying the pressure.
And A&M forcing a punt. You know, their defense has had to play on a short field, and the offense needs to come out right now. A&M with 25 yards of total offense. And the way that their front is playing after this Mike Null punt, they're going to need to get something going to get that defense off the field. Keep them off.
Well, Holland is back in there as the return guy, and he signals get away from it because it's going to hit short, and he made exactly the right call. Well, earlier we asked you the Aflac trivia question. Former Oklahoma quarterback Jason White won the Heisman Trophy in 2003. Who finished second and who finished third in the voting?
That's a tough one. I know that was Eli Manning's senior year, so you got to figure he was in there. Maybe Darren Sproles of Kansas State because we're in the Big 12. That's just a guess.
Okay, let's see. Larry Fitzgerald of Pittsburgh, and Eli Manning was third, of course, of Ole Miss.
I knew that.
And there they were. The 2003 Heisman ceremony. Jason White second from the left, of course. Chris Perry of Michigan to his right. Eli Manning of Ole Miss. And Javorsky Lane gets the carry. Let's go down and check in with Jack again.
You know, you ask people how much Javorsky Lane weighs, and nobody really wants to give you an answer. We do know that he ate his way to about 300 pounds by the end of the season. But Les Koenig said to us, you know, one thing I've learned, I don't ask him how much he weighs because there's 2 things that I won't do. 1, ask a woman how much she weighs, and 2, ask my star running back how much he weighs.
Smart man.
I tell you, there's a few biscuits over what they list in the program, though. I don't think there's any question about that. That was Smith who went in motion. They come back to the other side of the field out to around the 42-yard line with a first down. Walker will make the tackle on Stephen McGee.
And you still, if you've just tuned in and you're wondering why Mike Goodson is not in the game, we don't have a straight answer yet. Goodson's been standing on the sideline, has not played. We've seen a couple of other fastbacks. Remember, Lane is the guy who really kind of can run between the tackles, but Goodson over there without his helmet in his hands makes me feel like Jack reported earlier that he was ill earlier in the week. Actually has his helmet now, so we may have been dealing with some type of suspension maybe for the first half or something, and maybe we'll see him later, but A&M could really use his speed.
Smith, and he's going to be hit behind the line of scrimmage, and that will be a loss of about 2. Matt Leinart in New York. Let's check in with you.
All right, Ron, more late game drama for LSU in this Taco Bell update. John Parker Wilson, after LSU had tied it, coughed it up. Curtis Taylor came up with it. And a few plays later, the battering ram Jacob Hester up and over and in. Bayou Bengals up 41-34. Still some time left for Alabama to get it back and maybe tie it up.
Okay, Matt Weiner in New York with that update. Huge game in Tuscaloosa. Caused by a turnover, the lead right now by LSU. Play action pressure. The ball is fumbled. And they scramble for it at the 35. It looked as though as McCoy is the man who caused the turnover, or the fumble, I should say. It's not turned over as yet. The official's not signaling that it's going to go the other direction. And the fingers go up. It'll be 3rd down, and they will maintain possession of the football.
Well, Gerald McCoy got a great jump, and the center was trying to come back and block him, Cody Wallace, and just had no chance at all. A great jump on the snap.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's twice tonight that he's really planted the quarterback.
And McCoy, a young man, as a redshirt freshman that has been playing. He's battling a couple injuries, had an ankle injury against Iowa State, and now again for Texas A&M, spending more time going backwards on offense than forward.
3rd down, they need to take it across midfield to the 48. And they go with a draw play. Lane. And he'll get some of that yardage back, but it'll be 3rd down or 4th down and 10.
And Austin English, you know, if you've ever been down around that shin and ankle, and as hard as his leg was swinging around and hit Irvin Taylor, I can't imagine. I think they need to take some x-rays is what's going on. Plus the swelling has to be pretty bad at this point.
So obviously we'll try to get a report when we come back in the 3rd period. 4th time that the Aggies will have punted. This is a driving kick, and it takes a bounce. Did they get there? Nope. It's going to be a touchback. They'll scrimmage from the 20-yard line. It is 58 yards on the punt. And now let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary.
Well, it was the muff pump by the freshman Holland, recovered by Murray, that set up this Jermaine Gresham touchdown. And Gresham hadn't had enough. They came out in that 3 tight end set that Gary Darnell, the defensive coordinator from A&M, knew would give him some problems. And man coverage blew up in their face.
And it looked like a load hold.
Prior to the snap, false start, 79 on the offense.
Phil Lodeholt, the junior out of Fountain, Colorado.
Well, when you get 352 pounds moving, it's kind of hard to stop it. It's a lot of kinetic energy.
I'll tell you what, he's 352. Duke Robinson, George Robinson, next to him, the junior out of Atlanta, he's 352. It's almost like that side of the field should be tilted just a little bit, you know, easier to run downhill.
And these guys can move. You know, this offensive line is more athletic than you think at 322-pound average.
There's Malcolm Kelly on the receiving end, forced out of bounds at the 23.
This offensive line for Oklahoma, it's really scary when you start to think about
whole team.
And next year,
whole team.
Listen, this team has a very good chance if they win out, because if people are going to lose, we saw LSU getting scared with a little time left there against Alabama, but if they win out, they have a very good chance at going to play for it all. And they only lose 5 total guys off of their starting lineups. Unbelievable how good they could be next year.
Yeah, for sure. They would be preseason, if not #1, at least in the top 3. Short yardage on that running play. It's going to be 3rd down and about 5. And let's go down to Jackaroo again.
You know, Ed, you were talking about the playing for it all. That's one of the things that Bob Stoops during the bye week talked to his players about. He said, look, guys, it's really, really basic. Step 1 for us is to continue to win games. That will take us to the Big 12 championship. He said, once we get to the Big 12 championship, if we take care of business there with the fabric and the way things have unfolded during the course of this season, very well could get to step 2 and our ultimate goal to play for the Crystal football.
Short drop. Bradford high on the throw, and it'll be incomplete, and it's going to be 4th down. Kelly, the intended receiver, and Jordan Peterson with the cover over there for Texas A&M.
You know, as we watch the end of this play, nice job of Kelly. That very easily could have been an interception, but watching Oklahoma line up for a punt, they worked the other day in practice a lot on the kicking game, and Bob Stoops, you got the feeling something may be coming. It's awfully deep in your own territory, but that'd be the time that you catch someone off guard.
You're saying we may see some trick plays before the night's over, huh? This is a lazy spiral, and now it's going to bounce back in favor of Texas A&M. So not real long on the punt, only 39 yards. Well, the action continues next Saturday with regional coverage. Heisman candidate Matt Ryan leads Boston College against Maryland, or Kansas battles Oklahoma State in the Big 12. Saturday Night Football presented by Southwest Airlines next Saturday, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central on ABC.
You know, Jack just gave that report about what Bob Stoops talked about with his players. And Boston College, who's tied right now 0-0 in second quarter with Florida State, but as good as Kansas and Missouri are playing, that Big 12 championship game could be 2 very highly ranked teams, which would help the winner in their cause.
This is Jaworski Lane, and the big guy will stumble forward for a couple of yards. Curtis Lofton, and I'm not sure we've called his name before here in the first half tonight. His first tackle, I believe.
Curtis Lofton having a spectacular season. He got himself up to about 250 pounds. He's a little heavier than he's listed now at 6 feet, and the coaches were very pleased with how he carries it. It gives him a little extra in the middle when he has to take on a guard or a center, and he didn't lose any speed. Very productive.
Michael Schumard continues to work at right guard. Chris Yoder injured back in a Texas Tech game that we did. Haven't seen him since. Diving catch, and that's made by Smith. Keandra Smith with a diving grab and good for 19 yards, and that'll move the chains for Texas A&M.
Well, that's a nice catch by a running back. Here's Smith right here. As he comes out of the backfield, he's just following the tight end. And the defensive back on that side didn't close it, but again, for a running back, very nice catch.
Pierre Brown, the man at the bottom of your screen. And it's Smith again. The ball is loose, and it's picked up by Oklahoma at the 33-yard line. And the tackle made by Jaworski Lane, but it looks as though DJ Wolf came up with the football, and a turnover by A&M with their deepest penetration of the night in Oklahoma territory.
Well, Keandra Smith in there, and of course we saw Cornell Tarrant fumble a ball out of bounds earlier, getting a lot of playing time because Mike Goodson is not on the field. He's on the field, he's just not playing. And boy, you really have to think a guy like Goodson, in all of his experience, the leading rusher for A&M last year, whatever the reason is, he's not in there. Play is under review. Awfully close. Awfully close.
You know, the Aggies may hold on to the football here. His knee was very, very close to being down. Let's see.
Let's take a look. I think it was down. I think it may have been down. It's awfully close.
Boy, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You talk about bang, bang, and the thing is, in the position he was in, unless you get a different angle, maybe from this one we can see better.
Oof. You know, at full speed, you'd call that a fumble. In super slow motion like that, The rule is it has to be indisputable video evidence. And since you and I are sitting here saying, well, we're not sure, makes me think they may just say, well, it wasn't indisputable. Let's leave it.
Keandre Smith, number 26, standing on the far sideline, hoping and probably maybe even prayerful that that they say that they're going to change the play and the call on the field.
I think he was down. I just wonder if it's indisputable enough to say he was down. And that's
his knee is down right there.
It sure looks like it. And that's Curtis Lofton. We were just talking about him and how well he's played. Remember that huge forced fumble he had on Jamal Charles down on Oklahoma's 5-yard line in the third quarter, which really saved Oklahoma when it looked like the momentum had changed in that ball game.
Well, you know, as far as this game is concerned, 14-0 Oklahoma. But if they overturn this and the Aggies get the ball back,
great field position.
Yeah, they got great field position. Best that they've had tonight.
After review, play stands is called on the field. Oklahoma first down.
And I can see why. Listen, super slow motion, and it was still, was it or wasn't it? And, you know, again, the rule is indisputable video evidence. In other words, there cannot be a question. And I think he may have been down, though, Ron. When you look at it again, I think he may have been down.
Very close. Iglesias goes in motion. They hand the ball off to Patrick, turns the corner, almost has 10 yards in the play as a flag is down at the line of scrimmage. Toupee making the tackle for A&M, and it's going to be offsides.
Offsides. Number 11 on the defense. That penalty's declined.
Michael Bennett.
Well, under Bob Stoops, Oklahoma has been sensational on defense the entire time he's been here. And one of the big reasons, and the reasons their offenses have been so successful, is because they're constantly giving them short fields. And just about every single game that Bob Stoops has coached, they've forced one or more turnovers. And, you know, everyone coaches it, but the level of athlete that Bob Stoops and his staff have consistently been able to bring here is a big reason. They penetrate, they get in there and reach, knock that ball down. That was Curtis Lofton in the last one.
Eldridge, the tight end, went in motion, stayed in to block. And Bradford is going to be close to the first down, actually on the carry at around the 43. Kellen Hurd put the stop on him. He's sophomore out of Wharton.
Well, it's right on the edge of our yellow line. And they're saying first.
On the edge of their yellow line also, I guess.
I wonder if the officials sometimes wish that that yellow line would show up for them. Make their job a little easier.
Yeah.
We don't quite have that technology yet.
Yeah, that yellow line returned to gold as far as helping them make very quick decisions. Alan Patrick, blocker in front, 45 and out to the 49. Coming up at the halftime, John Saunders and Craig James in our New York studio. Scores and highlights including number 4 Arizona State against number 5 Oregon for what appears to be an elimination game in the national title chase. You know, deer season opened today down in Texas. I'm a little surprised that Craig James is in New York tonight. I thought that probably he would have abandoned John and been out on maybe his ranch hunting deer. Chris Brown in the backfield, but they fake. Safety valve throws it complete, and that's at the 46 to DeMarco Murray.
Well, Murray, that ball looked like came in awfully low, and the linesman and the umpire were kind of looking at each other wondering, was it a catch or wasn't it? Now, of course, they're looking to see if it was a first down.
Asking the players to move so they're going to have to bring the change from all the way across the way.
But neither official looked completely comfortable in calling that a catch. See if he gets his arms underneath of it. Well, I didn't see the ball come through underneath, so doubt they'll review that. Well, our line says it's off by about 3 inches.
And that's about right. Maybe 6.
Pretty accurate.
So Sam Bradford I mentioned off the top of the telecast, and in case you didn't know it, Sam Bradford from Oklahoma City, and the first time in over 3 decades that they've had a starting quarterback that came from the Oklahoma City area. And as good as high school football is in this area, it's surprising that that has not happened.
Well, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Wilson, the offensive coordinator, allows the young man from Oklahoma City to fake a handoff here. Again, it's the big people, but they can run. Brody Eldridge, Joe John Finley, they can stretch the field.
Yep, 3 tight ends in the ball game, and they take it straight ahead with a running play. That didn't get much, but it'll be enough for the first down.
And I like the drive so far for Oklahoma. They get the ball back after the fumble, and they are melting the clock. They've gone to their power running game, and that's what's so difficult to defend Oklahoma, because they are so good at spreading you out, and they throw a lot of wide receiver screens. But because of this offensive line, they can just roll off, zone block you, and they have 3 very capable backs.
Bradford sets in the pocket, got a man, has it complete for the first down. Iglesias, Joaquin, a junior out of Killeen, Texas.
Well, and A&M with 3 timeouts, they're going to start seeing this clock melt away. Here's Iglesias right out here. He's very quietly the leading receiver for Oklahoma because, of course, Malcolm Kelly was the big name coming in, and a lot of teams, I go back to that Miami game when they went one-on-one coverage on Malcolm Kelly. Everybody after that said, no, we need to double that guy up. So Iglesias has been the benefactor.
Chris Brown. And a nice job of a tackle from behind by the ankles. Michael Bennett grabbed a hold. Ron Franklin, Ed Cunningham, and Jack Arute coming to you from a packed house in Norman, Oklahoma. Big showdown game between 2 tough rivals, Texas A&M and the Oklahoma Sooners. Both, of course, in the Southern Division of the Big 12 Conference. Oklahoma sitting on top. Total yards in this ball game, Oklahoma just hit 200, and A&M stands at 56. Blitz coming right up the middle. They pick it up, got a man wide open because of that, and the man coverage, it's Manuel Johnson, and it'll be a first down and 10 at the 14. It's a gain of 16 yards, Oklahoma. Give credit to that offensive line, a nice job of protecting and picking up the blitz.
I was just going to say, so much different here in the second quarter than it was in that first quarter. A&M got a ton of pressure, and now Bradford's able to step into his throw. He's very comfortable in the pocket. Emmanuel Johnson, a former quarterback, does a good job of finding where the blitzer had come from and setting down in that. Again, the safety, Stephen Hodge, so deep he can't come up and make the play.
Yeah, he really did settle in front of those safeties. Swing, safety valve, 10, 5, touchdown, Chris Brown. May have been a safety valve, but no one was around the safety valve.
You cannot play the quarterback position better than this. When Sam Bradford gets into his groove, he's a redshirt freshman who plays like a 5th-year senior. He looked through 3 different receivers that were all covered, came back at the last second, but the key was throwing the ball perfectly, leading the running back so he didn't have to slow down. His speed was headed for the goal line.
Well, Oklahoma had last week off, but the last game that they played, the young redshirt freshman told his offensive coach as Hartley knocks through the extra point, he said, boy, at Iowa State, I was a little too greedy. I tried to do things that were not there. Tonight, that's not the case, and as a result, Sooners 21-0.
Could not have been more dominant. I mean, he wasn't a big guy. He could run.
He wasn't.
He was just very powerful. He had that strength that didn't really show up in the weight room.
So Hartley prepares to kick it off, and you look at Brown. By the way, on Brown, for you trivia buffs, and he scored touchdowns here before, but never as a pass receiver. That's the first one in his career. Kick coming down to the 1-yard line. It's Pierre Brown. And there's a big opening. If he gets by this, nope. Slowed up at the 33-yard line, and it looks as though he was going to break into the clear. So SC trying to get it back on track. Chris Brown scored 6 of the last 7 Oklahoma offensive touchdowns.
3 of those in the second half against Missouri. In a game 41-31 that was closer than 10 points. They needed all of those. He was very productive, and 8 clock in the second half in that game.
Chandler Smith back in the ball game at tailback. And McGee got the pass away just before he got back to the line of scrimmage, and it's going to be incomplete. Martellus Bennett, who has been silenced in this game so far tonight, the intended receiver.
And with 47 seconds left and 3 timeouts, you can expect Texas A&M to move. I would keep moving McGee out of the pocket, because I think Oklahoma, one thing that this offensive line for A&M has struggled in is pass protection. Because they run so much option, they're not drilling pass protection much during practice. So I think McGee, with 47 seconds, you're going to throw it down the field, 3 timeouts, continue to move him and give him a run pass option.
2nd and 10. Blitz comes up the middle. They throw it back into the boundary, and Smith makes the catch, but he falls down, and they'll lose about 3 or 4 yards.
Well, and if they want to do anything here, they're going to need to take a timeout, unless they're thinking. And if you're Oklahoma, you may want to think about taking yours, so maybe force them into a punt. But at this point, it looks like A&M afraid of another turnover, down 21-0. But boy, I think you'd be more aggressive. You're down 21. Oklahoma's found a rhythm offensively. If you've got a chance, I think you've got to take it.
Well, with Smith falling down right there, I think Dennis may have just decided, let's don't take a chance on a foolish turnover and give Oklahoma the ball in decent field position with time on the clock. McGee, and he'll run out of bounds and stop the clock as the clock is in pursuit. So we'll be joining John Saunders and Craig James in our New York studio for the Capital One halftime report. Right after this, you're watching ESPN Saturday Night Football on ABC. Welcome back to ESPN Saturday Night College Football on ABC, presented by Southwest Airlines. Well, it's 21-0 at halftime, and Ed Cunningham, we do know that Goodson is going to play in the second half. Jack's going to have more on that story for us, and not that he is the savior, but he's certainly going to help them, because those young folks are having a difficult time against this OU defense.
And A&M hasn't helped themselves at all. No. Two turnovers have led to 14 points. We take a look at the highlights of the first half, and it all began with a freshman mistake. Roger Holland should not have tried to catch that ball, and then Jermaine Gresham, nice catch in the back of the end zone, and then Curtis Lofton on a fumble that was it or wasn't a fumble. It was ruled that it was. They didn't overturn it, and then Sam Bradford just with an excellent play. This freshman did a really nice job looking off people and came to Chris Brown. So more the same for Oklahoma, but for A&M, they've got to get something going, and maybe in the passing game they might have to down 21-0.
I was going to ask you, only 63 yards in the first half as you look at Goodson, and he's got the chin strap buttoned up now and is prepared to come in the ball game. But specifically, you know, do you ride this horse right here? Because what the OU defensive coaches told us yesterday, this is the guy they feared most in space.
Yeah, I think they have to. You saw at the beginning, Javorsky Lane, he's a good power back who can run when the defense starts to soften up, but this guy can do it all. He can run between the tackles. He can get outside. You can use him in space way more than you could do Lane. So if, in fact, he does play here in the second half, I think you've got to ride him. You're down 21-0. Get him involved in the passing game. Absolutely. I think
maybe a little bit sluggish to open the ball game, but that week off, then also you could see preparation, a few little new wrinkles here and there that they had offensively. And they took care of business in the first 30 minutes of play. And this is Franks. Spins around at the 35, and then is going to be slammed to the turf at the 37-yard line. Let's go down to Jackaroo. Jack, you got more on the Goodson situation.
Yeah, as you surmised, Rod, you're going to see a lot of Mike Goodson in the second half. Now, the reason he sat out the first half, I talked to Coach Franchione. He said that he missed a lot of practice this week, and he told me, and I quote, due to family problems. And he said, so we had to sit him down for the first half of the game. He said, but he will come out and play. And Ed, you brought up a very good point. When I talked to Kevin Wilson before the game, he not only feared the rushing attack from Mike Goodson, but when we went up to talk to Mike, he said, guy can catch a lot of passes too, so.
Well, we'll see. He can be used in a lot of different ways, but he gives you both the experience, but also that burst. That's him in motion. Goodson gets the handoff, takes it back into the boundary, and he'll have about 4, maybe 5 yards on the play. Here is the Pacific Life game summary.
And if you're an Aggie, turn your head. It's not pretty. Of course, the 2 turnovers didn't help this, and one of the turnovers, the one by Keandre Smith, happened when Texas A&M had crossed over into Oklahoma territory. But that's the story. 14. Now you're down 14 points off turnover. Now you're down 21. I don't think you have to panic here. If you get a score on this drive, you're back in the ball game. So I think you can still stay in the flow, and with Goodson available, establish that inside-outside running game.
On second down, McGee play action, looking, wanted to go to Bennett deep, and he was well covered, and now McGee is just going to have to run out of bounds. Now, did he throw the pass before he stepped out of bounds?
Well, it looks like they're marking it as he did. And this is just putting your quarterback in a difficult position. You roll him out, and I know it's a run-pass option, but against this type of defense, there was only 2 receivers that were in routes on that. And I know you want to have some guys in protecting, but I think you got to give Stephen McGee more people to look at than 2. It was a drag all the way across the field and a hook on the side that he was running, and they were both double covered.
Lane and Goodson in the backfield as they go from the shotgun. McGee under pressure, swings it out to Goodson, avoids one, will not get by the 3rd tackler. Good heavens, what a hit. And the bench for Oklahoma just exploded as the defender Curtis Lofton exploded along with Baker on number 3.
Well, Curtis Lofton is quickly playing himself into that league of guys like Teddy Lehman and Rocky Kalmus. Watch him finish this play. And this is the speed of a 250-pounder. Couldn't have got there at a better time. Let's give a listen. And Goodson jumped right up. He was helped up by a teammate, but I think he wanted to lay there for a little while.
5th punt of the night by Texas A&M. This is a very good kick. Smith, the deep man, makes the fair catch at the 10-yard line. So it's 52 yards on the kick. And although Oklahoma stopped Texas A&M, they're going to take over with a not so good field position at their own 10. But they lead it 21-0. Ed, how do you think they'll come out? I guess this deep may be conservative right now, but you know, what do you do with young Mr. Bradford?
Well, the one thing that Kevin Wilson said he was going to try to do in this game was get in some I formation pound, because those safeties play so deep, try to get them up. Such an efficient first half for Bradford, which other than Iowa State we've seen time and time again, but wouldn't be surprised to see some power running game early in the 3rd quarter.
Joe John Finley resets, and they give the ball to Alan Patrick. Maybe a gain of 1, and that's going to be it.
You know, we go back to that touchdown pass to get it to 21 when Sam Bradford found Chris Brown as the swing man, and we talk a lot about coaching, and that's Josh Heupel right there, the quarterback's coach. That was Cale Gundy closer, but Josh Heupel, of course, won a national championship here as a quarterback. He has done a fabulous job with this young man, not just on the field, because we see that, but off the field. How do you deal with the pressure? Because, of course, Heupel was quarterback of a national championship team. He knows what it's like to deal with that pressure.
Good play action this time by Bradford. Throws it a little low, looking for Kelly. Malcolm coming right across the middle. And normally he can grab those and bring them up, but was unable to on that one. That was around the shoelaces.
Well, you like to see receivers go down with their hands and try to catch the ball, because it allows them to stay on their feet and get yards after the catch. And we've seen Jermaine Gresham improve that part of his game, but that ball was not very accurate by Bradford.
4 of 8 in 3rd down conversions for Oklahoma. And they got to take it out to their own 20-yard line, or they're going to have to kick this one away. Murray got turned, Kelly got turned completely around on that one, and there was a flag back down at the 6-yard line.
Well, I'm surprised they didn't get Arkeith Brown for pass interference. But this looks like a hold.
Holding, number 72, the offense. That penalty's declined. 4th down.
I think it's because Kelly got turned completely around, and the defender really
ran into each other.
Didn't really turn him around.
Yeah, I would say that was holding on Henry Smith. Well, the problem was that Big Duke Robinson, you get that hand when the guy spins, you've got to let it go. You know, you're still in front of him, but I would say that's a hold.
So Michael Cohen standing about 3 yards deep in his own end zone. Oklahoma leads at 21-0. Boy, he took his sweet time on that one, and he almost got it blocked. Fair catch is called for and made at the 42 by Roger Holland. 47 yards in the kick. Well, it was a big day today in the Big 12 Conference. And the first one we talk about, this almost looks like a basketball score. Kansas proving for all the doubters and the naysayers, or particularly on offense, and this young man, Todd Reesing, from Travis High School, just north of Austin, Texas, he could run for governor of the state of Kansas real quick and probably win it.
And that north, with Missouri laying it on thick on Colorado right now, that north, boy, those two teams, whoever comes out of South's going to have their hands full.
Little delay, and this is the reason he is so valuable. Goodson. And you see the shake and bake he's got in the open field, and the reason that the coaches here in Norman told us, hey, this is the guy we fear the most.
Yeah, when we sat in with Brett Venables, defense coordinator, linebacker coach, and Bobby Jack Wright, who co-coordinates and coaches the defensive backs, this is the guy they didn't want to see. And you've got to think this young man, as Jack reported, was suspended for the first half because he missed practice time for some personal problems. And Brett Venables, he's not only got the fast guy on the field with the ball in his hands, but a guy with a purpose because he was sat down for the first half.
Goodson again tries to take it back into the boundary. Nice defensive play that time, and it's DJ Wolf who made the tackle. Let's go down to Jackaroo.
Guys, one other thing to keep in mind too is now you got a set of fresh legs. Didn't have to run in that first half. It is a little bit colder, and when you add the desire, the fresh legs, and the fact that now he wants to get out of the doghouse and win the admiration of his teammates and his coach again, this is a guy on a mission right now.
Yeah, but he got a wake-up call from Mr. Curtis Lofton. You know, he got out there, and that big 250-pound middle linebacker said, welcome to Norman.
Chris Alexander in the ball game at fullback in front of Jaworski Lane. Play action. McGee stands in there, throws the pass, and almost threw an interception. And is having a little better position than anybody on the play was Wolf, and he was looking for Martellus Bennett.
Well, DJ Wolf, what a great story. He came in here as a running back. He moved to cornerback. He was really having an up-and-down career, and I just mentioned Bobby Jack Wright, the defensive back coach last spring, said, why don't we try him at safety? I think the problem might be at cornerback. You know, a lot of plays go away from you and you lose your focus. And this young man now at safety went in spring and just played lights out. In his last 4 games, he has 4 interceptions. Just a genius coaching move by Bobby Jack Wright to find the right position for a good athlete.
Good look at Bobby Jack. And a timeout being taken by the Sooners, so we'll take it with them. 21-0. OU on top. So you look at the comparison between the quarterbacks here. But back to the field of play, it's 3rd down, and they got to take it to the Oklahoma 24-yard line. Goodson in the backfield as Bennett resets at tight end. Option play. Pitches to Goodson. Turns the corner, and Goodson stays in bounds, and he'll have the first down. He came really close to stepping out of bounds, but he didn't.
Well, he does look like, you know, Jack mentioned the fresh legs and with a purpose. And he always runs hard. He's for a smaller guy, always runs hard, but he looks like he's playing at a different speed. And they can review this. He's clearly out of bounds. I don't know how you miss it. So they'll bring that back. That is reviewable. Now, the question becomes, I think.
Look at A&M's trying to snap this ball. I don't blame him.
Yeah. Well,
but no, that's not even close.
And with the struggles of Matt Zemansky, the kicker, I think that you go for it on 4th down. It looked like it would be about 4th and 2, maybe 3. But clearly Goodson went out of bounds, and it was a tangle of legs. The side judge wasn't able to see that Goodson clearly stepped out of bounds. Let's see where he went out. Yeah, right there. So the ball, we'll call that 4th and 4.5 maybe by the time they set it. But I just think it's at that distance, 44-yard field goal, where I just don't think they're going to be comfortable with Zemansky, and with Oklahoma's ability to block kicks, I think that they'll be going for it. And down 21-0, probably should.
Well, I think that's the key, is to exactly where they're going to respot the football.
But boy, what a difference.
Looks like it around the 28, and they've got to get it to the 22, so that's 6 yards. See if it's not about in that vicinity. Yeah,
you're right.
Steps out about the 28.5.
Yeah. I still think you go for it, though, because
Zemansky is warming up over there on the sideline as though that's what they might do. However, we have heard so much about trickerations for tonight on both sides, trick plays that might be run.
Well, the one thing that we saw in practice the other day was how much Oklahoma was working with their base defense against kicks, so that they were in their coverages and knew what they were doing. So I think Oklahoma's ready. Of course, that is Matt Zemansky. And of course, Bob Stoops knows all too well that Dennis Franchione is not afraid to try trick plays in the kicking game.
After review, the runner stepped out of bounds at the 28.5. It'll be 4th down, 4.5 from the 28.5. Please set the game clock to 11:42.
And let's go down to the sideline to Jackaroo. He has an update on Austin English and his injury.
Yes, he is done for the night. He is on crutches. They have put his right ankle and his right foot into a soft cast. So now it's going to be a little bit of a depleted defensive Sooner defense that's going to have to play the second half of this game, guys.
Okay, Jack, boy, that is tough news for the Sooner Nation. Defensively, English had just been making a lot of noise. This is going to be a 45-yard attempt by Matt Zemansky. Ball is down. He's got the distance, and he is no good.
Well, that would have matched Matt Zemansky's career long, but he is now 12 for 21 on the season. And I think at that distance, I think you go for it on 1st down, or excuse me, on 4th down. But Zemansky, who went to high school right there in College Station, has had just a really difficult year. He's battled accuracy all year. And at 21-0, I think you line up with Stephen McGee and try to pick up the first.
So the Sooners take the ball over at their own 28.5-yard line. DeMarco Murray is at tailback. And coming out of his stance was a Lodeholt.
Prior to the snap, false start, 79 of the offense, 5-yard penalty, remains 1st down.
Well, that's 2 on Mr. Lodeholt. And those are the coaches always talk about non-competitive penalties. They're the ones that they hate the worst. You don't even get a chance to play the play.
Well, that's only 3 penalties on Oklahoma tonight. Bad thing about it is 66% of them belong to Mr. Lodeholt. that's
so
not
good.
what you want to be the leader in the clubhouse with. Oh, nice second effort is bouncing straight ahead is DeMarco Murray, tackled by Chris Harrington. And away from the ball, little extracurricular activity going on. Yeah, that looked like Toupee and Brandon Walker.
Well, Gary Darnell Toupee got locked up and they went to the ground, and Gary Darnell wanted a penalty, but they were both of them just finishing the play. And they didn't go much beyond the whistle, so I think it was a good no call. Watch the left side of your screen right there. Yeah.
And I couldn't tell if that was a 2 or 3 point takedown. DeMarco Murray takes the snap straight ahead, and he'll go for the first down. A new wrinkle that we have seen tonight from the Sooners. Jackaroot.
You know, as much as they have these three-headed monster that they call the Oklahoma running backs, they like DeMarco Murray, and the coaches say one of the reasons is because he has the agility and the ability and the speed to make a big play. But what has held him back in the past, as you guys have talked about, is the fact that he had loose hands, couldn't hold on to the ball. They did work with him, though, during the bye week for that.
Chris Brown is coming to tailback now, giving him a breather, and he's got a big opening. Has 5, has 10, still on his feet, counted off at a gain of 15 yards. Devin Gregg, a junior out of Spring, Texas, just north of Houston, is there to make the stop, but that'll move the chains, and Oklahoma now beginning to move the football.
And you get the sense, remember what we saw on film against Iowa State after struggling in the first half, and not saying that Oklahoma struggled offensively in the first half, but they came out in the second half and pounded. We've seen DeMarco Murray take a snap. We've seen Chris Brown, all of them straight ahead. And I think that's coming from the head coach to Kevin Wilson saying, let's send a message.
Well, that put him, that 15-yard run put him at 110 yards rushing on the night for a total of 263 on offense. And they're going to keep it on the ground again. And let's check in with Matt Weiner. We'll hold it for a second, Matt, before we go to you. We got a flag thrown by the umpire, and we'll check that as Chris Brown was stopped after a very short gain. In fact, Matt, we'll go to you after the next play. We'll keep it right here in Norman.
Face mask, 85 of the defense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Not a personal foul, but Red Bryant is flagged for a face mask, a 5-yard penalty.
Well, and Oklahoma fans watching this game wanting updates from all over the country. That game out in Oregon, between Oregon and Arizona State, affects Oklahoma. The LSU-Alabama game affects Oklahoma when you're talking big picture national championship. And things are going to shuffle at the top. We know that. But this team on track to at least be maybe there at the end, at least in the Big 12 championship.
Bradford with a play action. Got a man all alone. And it is tight end Jermaine Gresham. And Gresham goes in for the touchdown. 38 yards. Again, that 3 tight end set has just been murder on the A&M defense.
And it's the same set every time. It's those 3 guys. They look like they're in a form of the wishbone off to the left side of the formation. And Gresham, guess what he did that time when he caught the ball? Caught it with his hands again. That off week was very good for Mr. Gresham.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, that's 3 touchdowns for him tonight. If you think that 3 tight end thing has not been fun for Coach Wilson to tinker with.
Yes. When we met with him before Miami, it was like he had a shiny new toy.
Hartley with the extra point attempt. He's got it. So with 9 minutes and 47 seconds left in the third quarter, our new score, Sooners 28, Aggies nothing. Where you're looking at Heisman Park just outside the football stadium here at Oklahoma. Park houses statues of OU's 4 Heisman Trophy winners: Billy Vessels, Steve Owens, Billy Sims, and Jason White. Heisman Park right outside the stadium.
Not a whole lot of colleges could have a Heisman Park. Nope. Notre Dame, SC. Not a whole lot of schools that have not just multiple, but above 3 and 4, which I think you have to be above 3 before you can make a park. I think that might be the rule.
Well, for those of you who are familiar with the stadium here, that's over just off the east side of the stadium, Heisman Park. And a lot of folks visit that area and get their pictures taken before the ball games and also afterwards, particularly when it's a day game, as Hartley prepares to kick it off for the Sooners. Franks and Brown, the 2 deep men for Texas A&M. Now 28-0. From the goal line. And a flag from deep downfield.
During the return, holding number 8 of the receiving team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Now let's take a look at our Southwest Airlines playbook.
Well, we've been talking all night about the 3 tight ends and how difficult when guys can run at that position. You think it's a power formation. Watch Joe John Finley run a vertical route, and he's going to pull the safety with him. And then Gresham goes out to release, and Jordan Pugh, who has underneath coverage, doesn't back up enough. But that's not Pugh's mistake. It's an over-under coverage, and the safety has to go with Joe John Finley. And that's why it's so difficult to defend, because those big bodies can stretch you vertically. That's why Oklahoma has such an advantage with those 3 guys on the field: Eldridge, Finley, and Gresham.
Empty backfield, only the quarterback, Stephen McGee. Mike Goodson, the tailback, is at the bottom of your screen. He's out as a wide receiver. And that is Martellus Bennett. And Martellus being gang tackled, but he is going to have the first down out across the 25-yard line. DJ Wolf was the first man to get there.
Well, and Martellus Bennett was the guy who almost helped bring A&M back last week against Kansas. He ended up with 8 catches, a career high, and a lot of comfort for Stephen McGee and Martellus Bennett, and that is his first catch of the night. Kind of shocking, but I would expect now, down 28-0, we may see more of Mr. Bennett.
Again, Goodson in the ball game, but that is him at the very bottom of your screen, split out as a wide receiver. On first down, the pass right over the middle. They've got it complete. Again, it's Bennett. And that's a gain of about 13 yards. It's called it 12 officially.
It's amazing. And Bennett getting up slow. He got his legs taken out from underneath him. Boy, that's a... We've talked about how big missing Austin English is for Oklahoma defensively at this stage in the game. Bennett, who's gimpy on that left ankle. Nice throw by Stephen McGee. Yeah, his leg was planted when Lendy Holmes came in and took a hit on it.
And you're 6'7". That's a blow that it really doesn't feel very good. On first down, hit behind the line of scrimmage. McCoy gets penetration. And, you know, one of the big things I've got written on my chart that the coaches told us, he is very hard to knock off his feet because at 6'4" and almost 285. And, boy, he's proven it tonight. He has been an immovable object.
And for a guy who's just a redshirt freshman playing with a lot of pain, he had the ankle injury against Iowa State. Of course, they had a week off. He sprained his shoulder in camp. He broke his hand against Miami, but he has still been a very disruptive force for them in the middle.
Keandre Smith back in the lineup, number 26 for A&M. McGee, here comes pressure. Flag is down, and he throws that one toward Smith, who was coming back trying to help him, and it was Adam Davis applying pressure.
And I think they're going to get Oklahoma for offsides.
Offsides. Defense, number 86. 5-yard penalty, second down.
Well, I think they're calling DeMarcus Granger, 96.
Yeah. We're
scrambling to see if there's no 86 on defense for Oklahoma.
Billy Warndell, my spotter of 20 years, and I was sitting there going, whoa, let's see here. We don't have an 86.
You know, we were watching that Kansas game today, and the referee called a penalty on Kansas State. It was rather funny. And, of course, they were at Kansas, so they showed us the sign that no, not at Kansas State, University of Kansas.
McGee, good pickup on the blitz, and McGee is going to run it, and when he got hit and knocked forward, that may have allowed him to pick up the first down. It was Corey Bennett who made the hit. Well, near the conclusion of tonight's game, we'll select a Chevrolet player of the game from each team. Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund.
And McGee showing that even though The passing game is not his strength. The running game is. When things break down, he can make things happen. And Jaworski Lane that time got a nice block.
Hands it off to Lane, goes off the right side and lumbers his way inside the 45 to around the 44. Nick Harris defensively.
Well, and A&M now changing some things up, looking like they're getting some creases. Of course, with 275-pound or so Jaworski Lane, that can happen, but they have to keep the run involved, even though they're down 28-0. This is the 9th best rushing team in the country, but they're the 109th team in passing out of 119. So they've invested so much time in the run game. They have to keep that as part of their package here, even down 28-0.
Goodson and Lane in the backfield, and McGee just had no time, and he just had to throw it away. Well, and Matt Weiner, let's check in with you in New York City.
All right, Ron, it's official. Arizona State is out of the unbeaten business. Dennis Dixon tossed 4 touchdown passes. The Oregon Ducks built an early lead and made it stick, won 35-23. With the Sun Devils lost, there are just 4 unbeatens left. BC is trailing at home. Missouri wins at Colorado. Chase Daniel, 421 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, and sat the last 10 minutes.
Okay, Matt, Oregon coming up with the big win. You have to wonder how much, if any, that injury to Carpenter's throwing thumb caused a problem in that ball game for Arizona State. Double wing set with 2 tight ends, and McGee again. Boy, somebody is coming through on every play and just making him flush out of the pocket.
Yeah, that was Lewis Baker. Curtis Lofton gets talked about so much, but Baker, one of only 3 seniors in the starting lineup, a smaller guy, 210 pounds, just always around the ball. Here's Baker here. Good job of staying home and getting back up the field. Good change of direction. He read it the whole time and was just in his face. Nobody there. And it looked like Irvin Taylor may have been coming open late, but because of the great position by Baker, McGee can't get it to him.
6th time that they have punted, and here's the kick. It's going to hang up in the wind. Smith calls for a fair catch, and he makes it. It's a 17. So let's take a timeout. 6:37 left in the 3rd quarter. 27 yards in the kick. It's been all Sooners. Doing Ben Roethlisberger's game against Marshall. First time I'd ever seen him in person. And, of course, Barry Hepner was the head coach at Miami of Ohio at the time. I remember thinking the young man throws the ball as nicely as anybody had ever seen. Tackle is broken, still on his feet, and out across the 30 to around the 33-yard line. And now some pushing and shoving on the near sideline, and there's a flag back downfield as maybe the game's getting just a little bit chippy here. DeMarco Murray pushed out of bounds by Vaughn Miller. And, of course, it happened right in front of the Oklahoma bench. But further back downfield is where the flag has been thrown. Now 2 personal fouls are called. For some reason, the microphone was not opened.
And Bob Stoops went all the way out on the field to settle everybody down. And let's look how Murray carries this ball. Jack,
wait a minute. They've stepped off the penalty.
No. I think they didn't replay it because it was a dead ball. So they're offset. So I think they gave him the result of
gave him the result.
Yeah, because it was after. Yeah, it was after the play, right? But you see Murray. Jack did the report about how he used to carry that ball out a little loose. He did it against Texas, even though he had such a great game. They really worked with him, and you can see him keeping it closer to his body now.
Bradford, play action, deep over the middle. Malcolm Kelly stretches it out, but he can't go quite long enough. Jackaroo.
One thing I can tell you about Bob Stoops is he cannot tolerate just needless penalties, and he dodged a bullet there. Guys, the reason he went out on the field is he actually singled out the players and just told them one more time and he was going to pull them right off the field. They claimed ignorance and they were trying to finish the play. That didn't placate their head coach at all. I've never seen Bob Stoops as upset as he was just then.
Well, you go back and we opened the show talking about Dennis Franchione making the comment about the job situation. And after this play, I'll talk about the message that was sent by Bob Stoops by how he handled that.
2nd down and 10. And this running play is going to go for not 3rd down. Take it away, Ed.
But you go back to when Rhett Bomar and J.D. Quinn were caught working for making money for not working at a local car dealership. And Rhett Bomar, who was a star recruit, the starting quarterback, he was gone in an instant. He was thrown off this team the very second Bob Stoops had the information he needed to know that Rhett Bomar had broken the NCAA rules. And that has permeated this entire roster since he did that, because everyone knows this guy's not going to mess around. It doesn't matter if you're a star or not. You mess up, you're gone.
Well, one of the things he did just now, he took his headset off and went all the way down and addressed Manuel Johnson personally. I don't know how he messed up on the play, but he was told in no uncertain terms that he had done just that. As a flag comes from down deep, and this is a delay of game. Jack, you got more on that situation?
Yeah, Ronnie actually went the wrong way. He was supposed to go inside. He went to the outside, and Bob just wanted to make sure that he got the message.
Well, when you watch Bob Stoops at practice, you know, a lot of head coaches, they kind of look at the macro. How's practice going? How's the tempo? How's everything? Bob Stoops works on a micro level. He is constantly in players, and he spends a lot of time with the defensive backs because that's his specialty. That's what he played and coached. But you watch him, he is constantly coaching and teaching on a very small level. Footwork, where are you lined up? Where did you expect the route? This guy really gets into the minutia of the game, not just the macro stuff.
Kelly is there, makes the catch at the 25-yard line, and it's Keith Brown who finally made the stop.
And this ball thrown to the inside by Sam Bradford, which was a very good place to put it. And Malcolm Kelly, well, I tell you, Oklahoma's getting awfully lippy right now. And I think Bob Stoops may blow a gasket. But excellent job by Malcolm Kelly, waiting to the last possible moment to cut inside on Brown. He stayed outside, and then cut him off right at the last second. But Oklahoma they got really lippy there after that play. Wouldn't be surprised if Bob Stoops took a timeout to calm them down.
Whoa, what a hit going into the middle of the line as all of a sudden Alan Patrick is going forward, and now here comes a flag, and we have we may have an ejection here.
Yeah, that's Keith Brown and Joaquin Iglesias. This thing, we've seen it. You mentioned it a couple of plays ago, starting to get chippy. And after Malcolm Kelly made that long catch, the entire huddle started walking up to the line of scrimmage and running their mouth to Texas A&M. And I'm not surprised that somebody from Texas A&M didn't get upset and maybe throw a punch.
Well, Iglesias threw some fuel on the fire by going up there, and the official didn't seem getting so close until he was right there.
Well, that was Keith Brown who had Joaquin Iglesias his face mask and dragged him, and then Marquise Carpenter came in and hit him. Well, that penalty needs to be against Texas A&M.
Well, we can't hear. I don't, I wish we could hear him. It would certainly help.
And that was Keith Brown coming from the left side, who had a hold of Joaquin Iglesias, his face mask, and threw him by.
No, I understand that the house here is working on the microphone so that we can get a clear explanation so that nobody's out in the cold on exactly what's being called. But as Ed said, because of the grabbing of the face mask and swinging him around, that's the reason the Sooners have been penalized. And the crowd is reacting because of coming in was Carpenter to try to help his teammate. And they're trying to calm Carpenter down on the far sideline.
But from what I saw, it looked like that was A&M who was the aggressor there. And I'm a little surprised that was called on Oklahoma.
Gresham, the tight end, puts the head down and almost has the yardage back again that they lost on the penalty. And the officials now trying to hustle in on every play to make sure that play's dead and everything's okay. You hear the boos because Carpenter is back out on the field, number 13.
Well, and I still can't really figure out how that went against Oklahoma, because again, it looked to me like it was Brown who had tugged the face mask of Joaquin Iglesias, and then Carpenter came in and hit him in the back. But Oklahoma had gotten very lippy. I'm not saying that you should take it to that level because you'll get a dumb penalty, but
yeah, but you can't single out the one thing, because Malcolm Kelly should have been flagged for taunting.
I agree.
You know, had it been basketball, he'd have gotten a technical foul. As the ball is thrown complete at the 13-yard line to Manuel Johnson. He ran the right route on that one in the right direction. Gain of 15 yards, and it's a first down. Yeah, I agree. Both have a lot that deserves attention.
Action and reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
And it can go through a lot of different plays.
Yeah.
Well, that was a really nice job of Manuel Johnson. Ball thrown a little low. He knew he was beyond the stick. So just it's like when you're in the end zone. Secure the catch. That's the most important thing.
Well, Marco Murray lines up behind the center. And he hands the ball off, and this time Chris Brown is going to be tackled for a loss. Matt Weiner, let's check back with you.
All right, Ron, tonight in Boulder, Missouri kept alive the possibility of a rematch with Oklahoma. Chase Daniels, our nominee for the AT&T ESPN All-America Player of the Week after a career night, 421 yards and 5 touchdown passes. The Tigers got their first win in Boulder since '97. Text VOTE to 87654 on your AT&T wireless phone to cast your vote.
Well, I'll tell you, that game between Kansas and Missouri in Arrowhead Stadium the Saturday after Thanksgiving is really shaping up as something. Pass for the end zone. Touchdown, Oklahoma, and the fourth touchdown of the night by tight end Jermaine Gresham. Wow.
Well, they had all 3 tight ends. One of them lined up as a fullback. And that's the 4th time that Gresham has scored a touchdown with all 3 tight ends in the game. So teams that they're getting ready to play are going to have to start saying, okay, if it's 3 tight ends, let's make sure we cover Gresham.
Hartley with the extra point attempt right down the middle. So we'll take a timeout. 2:26 remaining as you look. And the 4th touchdown for Gresham.
As my partners upstairs have talked about, Jermaine Gresham was plagued with problems catching the ball. I talked to Cale Gundy just a little while ago, and he said, yes, during the bye week they worked with him, but he referred Gresham back to an off-season drill. It didn't involve the jugs machine, fellas, but simple tennis balls. What they do is they back off about 5 feet, and they toss them, one receiver to the other, and the receivers must catch those tennis balls with their fingertips. Seems to have worked.
Yeah, it sure does. And you know something, now I don't know if that was a Mike Leach specialty or not, but I know that Mike uses that technique at Texas Tech. I don't know if it came from Oklahoma first or if it came from him when he was up here. And now let's take a look at our timeline presented by the Sports Authority.
Well, the Big 12, will there be changes? Yes, there will. You've got to figure Coach Callahan may be gone and Franchione in a difficult spot. You're the receiver. Jordy Nelson has been amazing. Everybody talks about Michael Crabtree, of course, the big upset by Colorado. But I think the biggest story this season is the resurgence of the North Division. And I don't think it has anything to do with the South Division being down. I think Missouri and Kansas have really separated themselves. And that Big 12 championship is going to be as good a championship game as there is across the country. ACC, SEC, Big 12.
So McGee is going to carry the ball and pick up the first down, and it's a gain of 11
And, of course, the media poll for the Big 12 North, they had one team right. They had Missouri, but Kansas down there at number 4. And I think it all goes back to that young man, Todd Reese, that
I don't think there's any question about that.
Here are the standings in the North. Of course, Kansas put 76 today on Nebraska. Missouri blew out Colorado in Colorado. So they're headed for the matchup in Kansas City.
And this staff here at Oklahoma was very honest in saying, you know, yeah, we won against Missouri. We really wouldn't want to have to play them again.
No, and 41-31. 21 of those points came off defensive scores for Oklahoma.
That's exactly right.
And there was that fumble late. Chase Daniel thought he was handing off to Macklin, and Macklin didn't think he was getting the ball. And, of course, Curtis Lofton returned it for a touchdown. But Missouri gave Oklahoma everything they could handle in this building.
Chris Alexander comes into the ball game for the Aggies, number 24, and he's an outstanding blocker, so you can keep an eye on him, and normally whatever direction he goes, the ball carrier is going to be right behind him. This time it's Jaworski Lane, but they run play action. He's got a man wide open over the middle and overthrown. And let's go down to Jackaroo. Joe Thomas was the intended receiver.
You know, guys, maybe one of the reasons why we're seeing the Big North and the resurgence is the fact that we're seeing more and more quarterbacks not coming from California, but from the state of Texas. In our conversation, we were all informed about maybe one of the reasons being the 7-on-7 clubs that have emerged in the state of Texas during the summer. Now you've got fall football, you've got spring football, and you've got 7-on-7s where quarterbacks, when they get to their freshman season in college, have got so much knowledge that you can increase the playbook.
You know, Jack, I can speak from living in the state for 37 years that state of Texas, when you get to the 5A level, there are some truly outstanding coaches, maybe better than some guys that are in Division I, and these guys don't want to leave the high schools. They really enjoy the competition and the challenge. Now, 7-on-7, if you don't understand, it's skeleton like teams will run during practice virtually every day.
Yeah, you take the linemen out of it, so all it is the specialists, the receivers, the running backs, the linebackers, and the defensive backs. And in the state of Texas, you used to not be able to do that competitively during the summer between the high schools. They changed that rule, and they started these 7-on-7 leagues. And the state championship every summer is actually at Texas A&M. And it has really helped the passing game at the high school level in Texas.
Well, this is Goodson, and he's got to be tackled for a loss by Nick Harris. One other thing on the 7-on-7. In visiting with Coach Venables and also Coach Wright, the co-defensive coordinators for Oklahoma, defensive coordinators, they talked about that because of that, not just the offensive players and also the quarterbacks getting better in Texas, how much smarter defensive players are getting at the high school level.
Well, what 7-on-7 does for you is it allows you to see things more because all of those big linemen are out of your way and you can see things develop, and you can also go watch other high schools and what they do and get an understanding of the passing game as a secondary player.
Blitz off the corner. They throw a hot route, and it is good for the first down. Joe Thomas. And that is the end of the quarter. And from where they've spotted him down, it's not going to be a first down. We'll talk more about it as we go to break. 4 touchdowns for a big tight end for the Oklahoma Sooners, named Gresham. Our presentation of Saturday Night Football presented by Southwest Airlines will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Welcome back to ESPN Saturday Night College Football on ABC, presented by Southwest Airlines. Let's take a look at scoring by quarter. Oklahoma 7 in the first, 14 in the second, as well as the third. And as we head to the final 15 minutes of play, 35-0, they lead over the Texas Aggies. Third down, line to make is the 46. Stephen McGee, design play, quarterback, keeper, and he's not going to have the first down.
Yeah, but I think you go for it here.
Alonzo Dotson making the tackle.
That was a nice tackle by Dotson. It sure looked like McGee. He's going to get there. Dotson going to have to step up even more. We'll find out later this week what happened to Austin English, but they've already lost John Williams at defensive end.
And John Williams was the other defensive end, and a guy that they had told us earlier that they had to have. So it's 4th down. A&M is going to go for it. Quarterback keeper, and on the option, McGee will have the first down and about another 10 yards to boot. Lewis Baker defensively.
You know, it's funny, Brent Venables, the defensive coordinator, we always go in to visit with him in his office, and he has about 4 different screens he can watch stuff. He's got a screen right in front of his desk. He's got a plasma TV to the left. He's got his computer screen that he can pull up, and we were talking about his respect for Bud Foster, the defensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. He's only met him a couple of times, but he said he watched that game Thursday night against Georgia Tech. He TiVo'd it so he could run back and watch some of their blitzes off the TV copy and said, you know, I found a couple of things I may add in. Bud knows what he's doing.
Well, he said, in fact, he was going to add them tonight. McGee throws a pass complete at the 28-yard line to Schenkel. EJ, a sophomore out of Lufkin, Texas. Time permitting, stay tuned for the Dell post-game report. John Saunders and Craig James will have scores and highlights from around the country.
But it was interesting, you know, we were just talking about those 7-on-7 drills and how much more complex the passing game is at the high school level, all across the country, but especially in Texas. And when Brent Venables got here from Kansas State, they were almost a strictly man coverage team, so they could load the box up, and so was Bobby Jack Wright. And they had to learn how to do cover 2, cover 3, do some zone blitzes, things like that, because they said offenses used to be simple. You knew what you were going to get. They were going to try to pound you until they had to do a play action so you could play man, and now you have to be so multiple on defense because the offenses will always have an answer to that.
You know, just looking, they brought the chain all the way across the way. You got time to say Bobby Jack came in with Bob Stoops. The other coaches, a bunch of them were still up at K-State. Mike Stoops was still up there. Venables was still up there. And the first day after he had been hired, they wanted to come over to the new office. They got lost and couldn't find the stadium. And so Bobby Jack said, pull into this convenience store and we'll ask him. And Coach Stoops said, you know, being the new head coach at Oklahoma, I don't think I'm going to go in and ask him where my football stadium is. Bobby Jack said, I will do it because no one has any idea who I am.
Such a great hire by Bob Stoops because of Bobby Jack's experience in the state of Texas. And that first recruiting class that they got on short notice was unbelievable.
May have been one of the best classes they've gotten overall. That pass thrown a little short. Pierre Brown was the man that they were looking for.
You know, the one thing that happens for Texas A&M, because when you dedicate yourself to the triple option, as A&M has, you just don't spend as much time in the drop back pass game. I was mentioning earlier how the offensive line, they work so much on their zone run schemes and their down blocking schemes that the timing and everything just isn't quite there because you're just not working it as much when you have to work on the timing of that triple option package.
It's Goodson, and it's going to be kept by the quarterback, McGee. And here's my question, because Florida's having to learn this as well. Coach Meyer has an offense where the quarterback keeps the ball a lot. He gets hit a lot. Now, in the conferences that he came from, and I'm not saying that those conferences are not good.
They're not the SEC.
But they're not the SEC. And the same is true right here. When you've got a guy who is tough as a boot, and that is exactly what Stephen McGee is. But, well, your body can only take so much. And you have to wonder if coaches might not start to back off a little bit. Stephen carried the ball, over 35 times up at Nebraska. And I thought, well, you got running backs to do that instead of getting your quarterback banged up. Play action. McGee now throws for the end zone and caught for a touchdown, Martellus Bennett.
What an excellent job by Bennett. Stayed alive the entire time, was running into the corner, came around and just could not have done a better job helping out his quarterback. That's a big target.
And the man who was applying the pressure, give credit to DeMarcus Granger, because he was not going to give up. He chased him all over the parking lot.
It was awfully close. You know, he had his heel up, and then his right foot came down, and they're going to review this.
And
I believe.
Here we go with
and we saw this against Missouri.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what, heel toe or toe heel. Either way, if the foot would come down and part of it's out of bounds, supposedly by the explanation of the Big 12 Conference, then that would not be a reception.
Watch the right heel, the left heel. Back it up just a click, and watch his left heel. Would that have come down out of bounds? Because that's the first foot to touch. If they determine that that heel would have come down out of bounds, then it is not a catch.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Yep. It was explained to us that either heel toe or toe heel, either one.
It's got to be a foot. And it looked to me that left heel would have come down in bounds. So I think they may let this stand. The right foot obviously came down, but in college out of bounds. But in college football, it's 1 foot in bounds for a completed catch. It was Chase Kaufman who just made an unbelievable catch, but
stayed on his toes.
Stayed on his toe. He never got his heel down, and his heel would have come down out of bounds, so the ruling was no catch.
Incomplete. That's right. 12:36 left to play in our ball game, and it's 35-6. Well, we think it's 35-6. We've got to wait and see if they're going to reverse this or if they'll let it stand as a touchdown catch by Bennett in the back of the end zone. Ron Franklin, Ed Cunningham, and Jack Arute coming to you from Memorial Stadium.
Play stance is called. Touchdown.
Touchdown, Texas A&M.
I think it's the right call. It looked to me like that left foot, the left heel, would have come down in bounds had Martellus Bennett not kept it off the ground. So I think that's the correct call.
Szymanski comes in to attempt the extra point, trying to make this a 35-7 ball game. Well, he got this one. So we'll take a timeout, and as we go to break, one more look at that touchdown. A nice job of ad-libbing and throwing into the back of the end zone to Martellus Bennett for the Aggie touchdown. So we are back. Martellus Bennett continues to pace on the far sideline, and he's limping noticeably from that lick that he took on his knee. A reception in a school record in 27 consecutive games.
Breaks the record he shared with Terrence Murphy.
All right, now look for an onside kick, or do you? Kick it away. Now, we thought we were going to see trick plays and onside kicks all over the place tonight. And let's go down to the sideline at Jack Arute.
Well, not only did you guys think there was going to be an onside kick, but the OU coaches thought there was going to be an onside kick as well. They made an adjustment, kind of the way you would bring the outfielders in. Well, they moved some of their middle guys up, and it may have affected that run back just a little bit. They thought they were going for one on the ground.
It was not a true hands team situation where everyone was up, but they definitely brought 2 or 3 guys from that middle unit closer up and put them right at the front. So they were anticipating that onside kick.
Alan Patrick has 5, has 10, and counted off at about 14 yards on the play as Vaughn Miller made the tackle for Texas A&M. Trent Williams with a nice block on the play. But the action continues next Saturday with regional coverage. Heisman candidate Matt Ryan leads Boston College against Maryland, or Kansas battles Oklahoma State in the Big 12. Saturday Night Football presented by Southwest Airlines next Saturday, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central on ABC. Alan Patrick. Boy, good stick right there by Kellen Hurd, the sophomore out of Wharton, Texas. Stepped up and made a collision we could hear and feel up here. 331 pounds. When you have a collision with someone that size, doesn't take much for forward progress to stop.
Well, it was interesting when Alan Patrick was asked by the coaches to switch to running back. Of course, there was a guy here by the name of Adrian Peterson. And his first question to Coach Stoops was, if I make the switch, will I get to touch the ball? I don't mind making it, but I'd like to at least be used as a running back. And, of course, last year was huge when Adrian Peterson broke his collarbone.
Well, this is Alan Patrick, and Alan will take it out to around the 49-yard line. Jordan Pugh defensively.
And it's good to see Alan Patrick in there running hard. A lot of people outside of the program saying, where's he been? He hasn't got the yardage that he had earlier in the season. We talked a little bit about the fumble. And it's not just Alan Patrick who's had that. Joaquin Iglesias has battled with some fumbles. DeMarco Murray has battled with some fumble issues. But with the emergence of Murray, and the coaching staff really likes Chris Brown because he takes care of the ball and he's such a good power runner. So it's just they've started to balance out the carries here.
Draw play, Brown, and Chris Brown breaks off another tackle, and he'll have the first down on a third down run. It's Featherston, I should say. And Jack Arute, let's check with you again.
You know, we always talk about concussions, and you know the medical profession and trainers have been working so hard on it. Virginia Tech and Oklahoma are two college teams that are using the HIT system. Now, what this system has been in development for the last couple of years, there are sensors inside the helmets of players, and it will measure all of the various hits throughout the course in real time. Now, for Oklahoma, they have 40 of these systems in effect. The biggest problem, they have to change them out for the games when the players go from their practice helmets to their game helmets. But this is cutting-edge technology, guys.
Boy, that really is, and it's Jack, can you also help me out on something? Does it, I mean, when it measures those hits, I mean, can they tell by the hits whether, you know, to check a guy to maybe see if he has had a concussion?
Well, they can go, but what they do is you can see if you get a spike, that means that maybe if there's an alert that tells you may want to take a look at that player and at least check him out.
I see. Shaken up on the play is Chris Harrington, the fine defensive end for the Aggies. And the trainers have had to come out, but at least he's up under his own power.
And the thing I like about that system is we all remembered when we were young men. And we played sports and we wanted to play. We didn't want to get benched. I can recall 3 or 4 times in my playing career getting knocked a little silly and just going back to the huddle because I didn't want to come out of the game. You know, if you're fighting for your position, and so you can't really trust a 19, 20-year-old who's fighting to play to be honest with you all the time.
Well, and Ed, there's an assistant trainer that sits here and monitors this device throughout the course of the game, so they don't take the player's word.
Right. No, and that's the key, I think, Jack, because listen, we've all been there. When you're 19, 20, 21, you don't think about that type of stuff.
Murray. And again, Oklahoma just trying to be conservative, advance the ball, but also move the chains and just run some time off the clock. They lead it 35-7. Yeah, and it's, you know, the thing that I like about this system more than anything is you look at the numbers on total offense in Oklahoma tonight is for all of us who tried to be macho at a time and didn't say anything about a lick that we got, that, you know, before it went too far, that, you know, somebody's going to tell you, hey,
you need to sit out.
That's exactly
and
right.
that's the danger, you know, as we're learning more about concussions. It's what happens after the concussion. How soon after that are you back into contact?
Chris Brown, big hit on him. And Jack, a little bit more from you on that.
Yeah, as we said, Virginia Tech and Oklahoma have been working with this HITS group, but the first NFL team has taken a similar system. And let's face it, with the Trent Green situation, the concussions that we've seen, and the severity there, the Jacksonville Jaguars have just purchased a similar system, and they are now beta testing it during their practices. So this is something that I think over the course of the next 5 or 10 years we're going to see become standard and the quid pro quo, both in college and in the pros.
And 4th down and short, of course, Oklahoma going for it because they want to melt more of the clock.
Yeah, and they're not going to try a field goal to add more points. Pleasant into the ball game at fullback. The flag comes down. Arkeith Brown came over and made the tackle.
If they didn't stop the play, makes you feel like it had to be on Texas A&M, maybe lined up in the neutral zone.
Defense number 11. 5-yard penalty. 1st down.
Michael Bennett lined up offside, so it'll be a 1st down Oklahoma. And the march will continue. We're at 7:53 left in the ball game. Oklahoma, knowing that a 35-7 win in conference play is plenty. They're not looking for style points or anything like that.
Well, I think they've got them at 35-7. I don't think they need many more. And that's the thing, unfortunately, that they're going to have to start thinking about some of that stuff, because teams above them are going to have to start losing, or they're going to have to start moving up. Like I said, though, the strength of the Big 12 North, I think, will help Oklahoma or Missouri or Kansas if they want to go play for it all.
This is Patrick. And let's take a look at the ESPNU All-State Standings Review.
Of course, we know that Arizona State has lost to Oregon, so Oregon jumps up. And Boston College struggling against Florida State. Not really shocked at that one. You had to figure Florida State was going to figure it out. And you saw Boston College struggle against that great defense at Virginia Tech. Florida State can play some defense, too.
You know what else we haven't heard? The weather was supposed to be horrendous up there.
It was pouring rain.
Yeah. And you have to wonder how much, the passing game got canned, so to speak, or anyway, that Matt Ryan might be having a difficult time throwing the football.
But Oklahoma, as Oklahoma takes a timeout, sitting there at number 6.
Timeout, Oklahoma.
So they take a timeout. We'll take it with them. 6:46 left in the ball game. 35-7 Sooners. Now the Aggie band plays across the way. And I need to make comment. At halftime, the Oklahoma fans, all during the performance by the Aggie band, continued to give those young men standing ovations. And it was really a heartwarming thing to see that in the heat of battle, and both schools being the rivals that they are, but showing appreciation for the work that those kids put in to put on their performances, both pregame and also halftime. Joe John Finley on the receiving end there, and this game now just can't get over soon enough for either team, because the last thing also a coach wants to see now is you lose a starter. You lose somebody who's really important to you as time is running out, and anything that happens now is meaningless, really.
And coaches don't like to change out personnel during a drive, but you feel like Oklahoma maybe should.
Yeah.
They've eaten enough clock here, probably going to pick up a 1st down. I'd go ahead and get that second unit ready.
10th play of the drive, and DeMarco Murray is not only going to pick up the 1st down, he'll set it up with a 1st down just outside the 10-yard line. Tackled by Arkeith Brown.
And things just do not get much better for Texas A&M going forward. Of course, we all remember the VIP Connection email that Coach Franchione, it was discovered, was sending out emails with insider information for money. So he's in a tough spot, and things are not going to get much easier for Texas A&M going forward. They play at Missouri and then Texas.
Well, in the release this week, they talked about the fact that, including this one tonight, that no college in the country had as tough a closing. Flag comes down. It may have been a face mask, but nobody has a tougher schedule remaining than A&M.
Yeah, 21-4 is the most difficult. And the bad news for Bob Stoops is the only team that's close to Texas A&M.
Face mask, number 85. 15-yard penalty. 1st down.
That's the second face mask in Big Red tonight.
And the bad news for Bob Stoops, actually for his brother Mike, the University of Arizona is the only school that's even close. Their finishing schedule is at 20-4 in the win-loss category. But Arizona showing some life. They've Willie Tuatama out there, very talented quarterback, has really started to come along.
No, as we went into our meeting with Coach Stoops yesterday, we all asked about Mike, and obviously his brothers, they stay in touch very, very close. Murray behind the center. And DeMarco will take the snap, takes it right at the middle, and he'll take it down to around, maybe the 2-yard line. Boys, single game records for TD passes tonight for Oklahoma. Jason White has 5 touchdown passes in the game. Josh Heupel has 5, and tonight Sam Bradford. Second time this year, though. When we were here last time, he had 5 touchdown passes against Miami and 5 here tonight against the Aggies.
Well, and Josh Heupel is coaching a young man in Sam Bradford. There's talent behind him. Keith Nickel, a true freshman, a state player of the year out of the state of Michigan, has a great arm, very athletic, but boy, this young man seems to be playing himself into a long career as a starting quarterback at Oklahoma.
Diving for the end zone, and Murray will take it in for the touchdown. Give Ian Pleasant, the fullback, credit for a paving block on the play.
And you've got to figure now, when this drive started, the first team should have been in there. And melt the clock, get this thing out of reach, and now you've got to figure for Oklahoma, maybe we'll see Joey Halsley, the backup quarterback, maybe Jacob Gutierrez at running back next time they come out on offense.
Hartley to attempt the extra point, trying to make it 42-7. You can see the clock at 4:23. And he's got it. So a couple of looks at the dive and the touchdown run by DeMarco Murray. 42-7. You're watching ESPN Saturday Night Football on ABC. Now let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary.
Well, it's a novel by Gresham. Jermaine Gresham, 4 touchdown catches on the night. He ties Trent Smith for most touchdowns in a game in Oklahoma history. And the thing we picked up very early is he had gone before the bye week to starting to catch the ball with his body.
Toby Keith on the sideline. He's a huge.
He must be a very happy OU fan. He's probably a big Jermaine Gresham fan now.
Well, when you said a novel by Gresham, I thought you were talking about Playing for Pizza, his newest one, which is about football.
Yeah, about going to play in Italy. I don't think Jermaine Gresham's going to have to go play overseas. I think he's going to be able to make a living right here in the States.
I think you're right.
But talking about Gresham, it's nice to see a young man improve his game during a bye week. Jack did the story about what they worked with his hands, and it's nice to see it paid off. Every ball he caught away from his body.
Here's the kick. This is very returnable. It's a high spinner and caught at the 16-yard line by Schenkel. Well, seeing Toby Keith there, country music's biggest night with performances by music's hottest stars. For the first time ever, an exclusive award show performance by the Eagles. That's live on Wednesday on ABC. Well, you know, you can talk about teams all over the country and the ones who have done well. Oklahoma does have one loss, but that loss to Colorado to me is a long time ago. And in watching this ball club this evening, now they can't start getting a bunch of injuries like they just did with English, but I think they're a team that definitely has to be in line, not just for a BCS team, but maybe a shot at the title. McGee with the pass, and that one is thrown incomplete. I know you agree on the BCS thing anyway.
Yeah, well, you know, and we've seen these guys twice now. We saw them against Miami, and we see them here against Texas A&M, and we've seen them a bunch on TV. And I think when Sam Bradford starts to settle in as he has, he struggled a couple of weeks ago against Iowa State. I don't know how you stop this offense. You know, they would, in a championship scenario, maybe play an Ohio State or an LSU, who has a great defense, but they can stress you in so many ways. They play great defense, but because of what they can do, the 3 good running backs, the 3 tight ends, there's so many things that they can do to you offensively. Boy, it's a real challenge to try to defend these guys.
Well, the 3 tight end thing, as you see the running play being stopped for naught. That was Lewis Baker who came in and made the tackle on Tarrant. the 3 tight end thing is something that I said, you know, Coach Wilson is kind of tinkering with, but it's not a tinker anymore. Now they're having fun with this situation because obviously it's given defensive coordinators fits.
Yeah, and you start looking around college football with Ohio State, still has Illinois to play, and of course they have to go to Michigan, which Michigan was kind of the inside joke of college football early, but they've run off 8 in a row. And Boston College struggling right now against Florida State. LSU still has Arkansas and an SEC championship game. There's a lot of chances for those teams to lose in front of Oklahoma.
McGee delivers this one, and that's Bennett.
Well, and here's when you look at if Oklahoma State were to win, if they went out and were to beat Oklahoma, they would have the tiebreaker in the head-to-head in the Big 12 South. Of course, in the North, Kansas, Missouri still control their own destiny. And one of the great stories in college football, I think, is Connecticut. And, of course, Virginia Tech and Virginia may end up playing for the ACC championship in that championship game.
The ball is tipped and almost intercepted. And Curtis Lofton was already running with it before he secured it.
We'll take a look at the other conferences. Oregon now, because of their win today over Arizona State, controlling their own destiny. And Tennessee, as crazy as it sounds, the only team in the East that controls there, and of course LSU in the West. But to me, the fascinating story is the resurgence of Michigan now controlling their own destiny. It looks like those 2 teams, Ohio State and Michigan now with Chad Henne, and of course Mike Hart's going to get healthier as they go along. That's going to be a big one in Ann Arbor at the end of November.
Here's McGee. Boy, they have flushed him out of the pocket a lot of times tonight. And of course LSU won a huge one on the road in Tuscaloosa. The 41-34 was the final. Alabama got that huge return, and then
John Parker Wilson had the fumble.
Yeah.
And Jacob Hester. If you have not seen Jacob Hester play for LSU, what a fantastic utility player. He can line up in a slot. Yeah. He can play fullback. He is such a dynamic force for LSU.
2:47 left to play in our ball game. Well, that pass right over the middle to Taylor. And it is going to be complete, and they'll move the sticks down to the 42.5-yard line. Lewis Baker along with DJ Wolf combining on the stop. We don't know yet where we're going to be next week, do we?
No. Either going to be in Austin for Texas Tech, or huge one in Stillwater, Oklahoma State, who lost a heartbreaker today. But they are hosting Kansas, and the way Kansas looked today, they're going to be tough to stop.
76 points is absolutely incredible. And that's Shankle, and he's got it complete. He'll take it to the 30. Now, to hear the big stories in college football today, Navy, how about that? And good for them. Snapping 44 years of drought in an overtime win over Notre Dame.
You know what
3
did it
overtimes? Is that?
Yeah. Do you know what did it for him? Lou Holtz's pep speech. Pep talk on Thursday night. I think that's what did it for Navy.
I see. By the way, the Tigers got 2 touchdowns in the final, what was that, 3 minutes to win over Alabama. Got another pass complete right over the middle for yardage as Kerry Franks gets on the receiving end. Not enough for the first down. He gets out of bounds. No, clock continues to run. 150 and now 149. You know, Ohio State and Michigan, you know, the Buckeyes, well, they were close today, and then all of a sudden they blew it out. They blew it out. Again, scoring in the 30s. And Beanie Wells continues to be just a force.
You know, it's funny because it's kind of quietly that he's doing that, and I think it's because everyone wants to talk about Ohio State's defense, which you should. But that offense, Brian Robisky, Todd Beckman, it's become very dynamic. But if you have not seen Beanie Wells at his best, he's a 235-pounder with sprinter speed.
Who can run by you.
Yeah,
That's right.
and he had a couple of runs today against Wisconsin where when he got in the secondary, guys had angles.
Yeah.
And I think you may misjudge his speed, but Chris Beanie Wells is becoming a superstar, and very quietly. Nobody's really talking about it.
Well, the interesting thing is he's also playing in pain because of a thing that I believe was congenital, an extra bone in his foot that he had surgery on. And they thought was a sprained ankle because they thought that had been fixed, but undoubtedly it causes inflammation with the foot and causes pain. Pass caught and pushed out of bounds. That's Pierre Brown. And so I think he just made up his mind, I'm going to have to play with pain. But boy, he's a force as far as that football team is concerned, and they have to have him. Sane, physically, we saw him
Brandon
against Washington.
Sane, yeah.
He can fly for a big guy as well.
But he had knee surgery, so wonder when he's going to get back. But you know, that Ohio State team, their defense allowed the offense to mature. Todd Beckman, who's basically a fifth-year guy because he didn't enroll after his last year in high school because of Troy Smith and the quarterback situation, but they've really matured and grown together offensively.
Here's McGee, quarterback draw, and he'll take it down to the 1-yard line. And here are our Chevy players of the game. Jermaine Gresham tied a school record with 4 touchdown receptions. And Mark Dodge of Texas A&M with 7 tackles. And in recognition for their efforts, Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund. So we'll take a timeout, 47 seconds left. And it's the Sooners leading by 35. So we're back. The Aggies with a 1st and goal at the 1-yard line. Stephen McGee takes it in. Chris Alexander.
Alexander with the handoff from McGee. They went with the triple option. Pounded straight ahead. And of course, Alexander doesn't get a whole lot of carries, so that's a nice bone to throw to the fullback.
Yeah.
And a good fake by Stephen McGee because the defense was running out to cover him.
Szymanski knocks home the extra point, and the new score 42-14 as Chris Alexander takes that ball in for the touchdown. And you see the remaining schedule for the Sooners.
Well, and anytime you go to Texas Tech, it's very dangerous. If Graham Harrell gets hot, he can beat a lot of people. And then when Bedlam breaks out, you just never know what's going to happen. Oklahoma State, through the years, since Bob Stoops had been here, have played very well and beat them several times. So to get to that Big 12 championship game, and we just showed you that if Oklahoma State were to win out and be able to beat Oklahoma, they would have the tiebreaker and go on. Now, that's a big if, because Kansas is going to town to Stillwater next week, and we'll see how Oklahoma State rebounds from a last-second field goal loss to Texas today.
I tell you, as many times as Texas has come from behind and beaten him in Stillwater, that today had to be devastating because at one time, it was 35-14.
And you look in the north at Missouri and Kansas. Missouri rolled it up on Colorado today. They get these guys, the Aggies, at home next week, then at Kansas State, which is not a gimme. And then, of course, Kansas in that neutral site game. And for Kansas, they're going to Oklahoma State next week. Then they have Iowa State, who's playing better. Iowa State's playing much better. And then, of course, Missouri and Kansas City.
Jersey being changed so they can put him on the hands team and stand by for the onside kick.
And they couldn't have a double number out there, so they'd had to cover it up.
Well, here is the kick, and it's going to go out of bounds. And the flag goes down as the kick goes out of bounds, not being touched by the receiving team or recovered by the kicking team. So they'll move it back 5 yards and do it all over again unless nope, Oklahoma's going to take the ball right where it went out of bounds.
illegal kick out of bounds on the kicking team. The ball will be taken at the spot it went out of bounds.
So you could hear the explanation right where the ball went out of bounds. No penalty situation, but it is a penalty to you when you try and the ball goes out of bounds. And normally onside kicks, you want them to bound high, but that one went higher than any I've seen in a while.
And Dennis Franchione going back again. They travel to Missouri, who couldn't be hotter, and then they host Texas to end the season. And it looks like they're going to 6-4 here. They could end up at 6-6, and after all the things that have happened off the field, it could be pretty quick decision time in Aggie land.
Halsley in at quarterback, and Madu gets the carry, number 17. And that should be the final play of this ball game, unless somebody stops play, because the 25-second clock still sitting there. We're down to 26 and 25, and they don't have to run another play. This one is history.
This game shows me that the thing is working. Exactly what Jack Arute reported, that it really doesn't matter, guys, because if you don't take care of your business, none of that talk about the BCS and all the formulas matter. You have to take care of your business, and this team came in focused, a little slow start on offense, but boy, they really cranked it up.
And let's go down to Jack Arute. Jack?
Well, Coach, I know you always say that you measure your team's performance by your team and not the opposition, so how do you rate it tonight?
Well, there's a lot of good there, of course. I'm a little frustrated with some of the penalties. I can't stand bad football like that. Some of the personal fouls, those issues, some procedures, but, we took care of the ball. Guys played really well. Defense was outstanding. And we had really good balance offensively. So first half we got fortunate with a couple turnovers, and that helps.
What about the performance of Gresham tonight?
Jermaine's a great player. Everyone's seeing that. He's a fabulous tight end, and Sam Bradford again was just excellent. So I'm proud of our guys. They had a good, solid game.
Congratulations, Coach.
All right, thank you.
So Bob Stoops and his ball club tonight leaving very little to ask any questions about. Coming up next on most of these ABC stations, stay tuned for your local news. Be sure to join us tomorrow as the chase for the NASCAR Nextel Cup continues at Texas Motor Speedway. It all starts at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 Central Time with NASCAR Countdown right here on ABC. Now for Ed Cunningham and Jack Arute, I'm Ron Franklin saying so long from Norman, Oklahoma. Once again, our final score, the Sooners 42 and the Aggies 14. So long, everybody.
This has been a special presentation of ESPN on ABC.
Eyewitness News 5 starts right now.
Oklahoma Sooner fans filing out of Memorial Stadium after another victory, the 29th and 30 Big 12 Conference games for Bob Stoops. Oklahoma knocks off Texas A&M 42-14 to stay on top of the South Division. Hello from atop the press box here. Oklahoma was impressive tonight. It's been a great day of college football. A lot of wild action, and let's go straight to the highlights here of the Oklahoma-Texas A&M game. Sooners early here, getting some good play on the special teams. DeMarco Murray comes up with the Aggies' fumbled punt, and it was not long until the Sooners would get on the scoreboard, and these highlights may seem a little redundant. Sam Bradford to Jermaine Gresham, Putnam City North graduate, hitting the Ardmore native from 3 yards out. Good defense all night. Sooners harassed Stephen McGee. Austin English with the sack, although he was injured in the first half and would not return. Again, Bradford, again, Gresham. This time from 12 yards out, the Sooners have a 14-0 lead, plenty to cheer about. More defense from Oklahoma. McGee hit by Gerald McCoy, the freshman from Southeast Oklahoma High School, and here the Sooners force another turnover. DJ Wolf comes up with the fumble. Oklahoma would then embark on another drive. Bradford, impressive at home, finds running back Chris Brown out of the backfield, and he scampers in to score. Bradford had 5 touchdown passes tonight. Jermaine Gresham caught 4 of them. That ties him with Trent Smith for the most touchdown receptions in a game. Smith did that back in 2001 against Kansas. Bradford ties his career high for touchdown passes with 5. A&M adds a couple of late touchdowns. The final, Oklahoma 42, Texas A&M 14. So the Sooners move on to face Baylor next week. Chris Callahan is coming up inside this newscast, including live comments from Bob Stoops in the Sooners press room. So we'll have that and much more coming up a little bit later on. Sophia, now back to you.
All right, Mark, we'll see you a little later. Well, while the Sooner faithful cheered loudly in the stands, a new group led Boomer and Sooner on the field. The Roughneck Spirit Group has been banned from all university events for the rest of the semester. Now, you'll remember we were the first to report on a hazing investigation between members and pledges last month. Tonight, in our big story, Eyewitness News 5's Jordan Williams is live on the OU campus. So, Jordan, who took over for the Spirit Group tonight?
Sophia, the Roughnecks alumni stepped in tonight to help out. This, of course, the first game here at the OU campus since the university officially banned the Roughnecks from campus.
It's pretty embarrassing what happened as far as how they represent the school.
OU senior Robert Gonzalez says the Roughnecks disappointed the university.
The situation was handled, I think, correctly. You know, if something like that happens when, you know, they're definitely in the spotlight representing the student body, it needs to be handled the right way. They're going to be on the field today, so we'll see how the fans react.
These Roughnecks alumni are determined to keep the school's Spirit Squad alive.
I think it's important for everybody, the university also. I think that everybody wants to see the Sooner Schooners still be out there and the Roughnecks taking care of it because it's been a part of the university for a long time.
Since 1915, an alumni president, Jeff Potts, is working to transition through what he calls a tough time.
We're working with closely with David Bourne and the rest of the university, trying to make sure that we keep the traditions alive.
Jeff says alumni will do more than just drive the schooner. They'll act as mentors for the remaining Roughnecks, and that is something students seem to support.
I mean, the hazing thing's bad for the school, but if the alumni can take over and take care of things like that to prove that, like, Sooners are still like a family.
It teaches everybody a lesson that, you know, they're serious about how students represent our student body, and they're not going to take any situation lightly.
Plan is for the Roughnecks to reorganize in the spring. They'll now be under the athletic department. We're live in Norman. Jordan Williams, Eyewitness News.